Chapter 449. Boom, 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 violent energy continued to sweep out as the holy light Taoist rhyme and the heavenly golden imperial physique's domineering Taoist rhyme continued to clash. The surrounding snow and wind shattered one after another, turning into white mist that filled the sky. The cultivators who were secretly observing were all shocked. I didn't expect Lan Yu to be able to fight Xiao Lintian to this extent. She's too strong. No wonder she was once the strongest young emperor. However, the heavenly golden imperial body is ranked second among the supreme Taoist bodies. I'm afraid the holy light body is no match for it. Physique enhancement is part of it, but a cultivator's own control over the Tao body and cultivation techniques are also very important. More and more people were watching the battle. Among them, there was no lack of cultivators who had rushed to the divine predictor city after hearing that Chu Kuangren had appeared. Most of them were sky prides of the younger generation. For example, the Empyrean walker who lived under Chu Kuangren's shadow 3 years ago. Guoshan, you're here too. Chu Kuangren has appeared in the divine predictor city. How can I not come? But why is Lan Yu fighting Xiao Lintian? Where's Chu Kuangren? I don't know. Let's just watch the battle first. Since Lan Yu is here, then Chu Kuangren must be here too. The group of Empyrean walkers gathered together and conversed. Meanwhile, the battle between Lan Yu and Xiao Lintian was getting more and more intense. The light Taoist rhyme and the heavenly lord Taoist rhyme gradually rose to their peaks. The two of them seemed to have become the center of this world. A terrifying light-based Taoist rhyme flowed around Lan Yu, and a dazzling white light bloomed, making her look like a valkyrie. The surrounding female cultivators couldn't help but pale in comparison. She held the scepter of light, and a huge white fireball gradually formed on the top of the scepter, like a small sun. In front of her, a heavenly venerate Dharma idol appeared behind Xiao Lintian. Endless overbearing pressure seemed to want to suppress the heavens. Lan Yu, to be able to fight with me to this extent, you are not weak. You will definitely have a place in the top 20 of the hidden dragon rank. It's a pity that you met me. Xiao Lintian said proudly. He raised his hand and gathered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The celestial master Dharma power behind him followed suit and slowly raised its arm, clenching its fist. I'll defeat you first, then I'll defeat Chu Kuangren. Xiao Lintian shouted coldly as he raised his hand and punched out. A powerful gust of wind swept through the area, shattering all the buildings in its path. The punch was aimed at Lan Yu, as if it could destroy everything in its path. Lan Yu wielded the scepter of light and swung it. A white fireball shot out like a meteor and landed on the heavenly reverend's Dharma form's fist. With a loud bang, the two forces exploded, and a terrifying shockwave turned into a storm that swept out. The spectators all around retreated. Is it over? With such a powerful force, it's about time to determine the victor. Everyone stared at the center of the energy. There was a person standing on the roof of a tall building. He stood there proudly, exuding a domineering aura. It was Xiao Lintian. As expected, Lan Yu is still not a match for Xiao Lintian. There is still a certain gap between the holy radiant physique and the heavenly golden imperial physique. Moreover, Xiao Lintian's own cultivation level is not weak. Other than those monstrous sky prides from the 9 heavens, there aren't many sky prides in the world who can compare to Xiao Lintian. The heavens' favorites looked at each other. They were not surprised by this result. Meanwhile, Xiao Lintian stood with his hands behind his back with a condescending look on his face. Now that Lan Yu has been defeated, it's your turn, Chu Kuangren. He looked into the distance and got up to leave. However, at that moment, a chuckle suddenly rang out from within the smoke. A bright white light flashed, and a white spear pierced through the void like a bolt of lightning towards Xiao Lintian. The sudden change made Xiao Lintian's expression change. He raised his hand and threw out a punch at the white spear. With a boom, the long spear exploded right away. A terrifying force swept out, sending Xiao Lintian flying out. On his fist, there were a few more bloody scars. He looked at the smoke angrily. When the smoke dissipated, a faint white light circulated around Lan Yu's body, and a black veil covered her. You haven't even defeated me, and you're already thinking of going against Master. Are you out of your mind? Lan Yu sneered. The crowd was shocked to see her veil. Is that a Boundary Emperor weapon? I can't believe Lan Yu has a Boundary Emperor weapon. It's this veil that blocked Xiao Lingtian's attack. I can't believe she has such a treasure. A Boundary Emperor weapon was extremely important to any top-notch orthodoxy, just like a sage ruler. Even the top-notch sky prides on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard did not have a Boundary Emperor weapon. Such an opportunity of fortune was too rare. As for the Boundary Emperor weapon in Lan Yu's hand, it was actually the Boundary Emperor weapon that Yinli used to infiltrate the Black Heaven sect. It was also because of this black veil that Chu Kuangren felt assured to let Lan Yu fight Xiao Lintian. She could not hurt her at all. Using a Boundary Emperor weapon? Despicable. Xiao Lintian snorted. Lan Yu could not help but laugh. You took advantage of Master's heavenly punishment seal to challenge him. How dare you call him despicable? Xiao Lintian was rebuked until he was speechless. However, he soon forgot about it. I can't hurt you with a Boundary Emperor weapon, but you're no match for me either. You can't stop me from going after Chu Kuangren. He did not want to tangle with Lan Yu anymore. Since she had a Boundary Emperor weapon, he could not hurt her, and she was not his main target. The person he wanted to defeat was Chu Kuangren. Oh, you're looking for me. At that moment, an indifferent voice resounded. The great ones who were secretly observing the battle and the spectating sky prides could not help but shiver as they looked towards the source of the voice. Amidst the snowstorm, a white-robed young man with a gorgeous longsword strapped to his waist stepped on the snow. His handsomeness was unparalleled as he approached with an umbrella. Xiao Lingtian's aura was domineering as if he was the center of the world. However, when this person appeared, it was as if the world was about to collapse before him even though he did not have any spiritual power fluctuations on him. Compared to him, Xiao Lintian was like a foil. It's him. It really is him. Among the crowd of Empyrean walkers, Feng Yaorao could not help but be excited. After 3 years, this person was still so extraordinary. His face had not changed at all, but it still amazed her. Chu Kuangren. He's here. He's finally here. The great ones and sky prides looked solemn. Chu Kuangren. You're finally here. Xiao Lingtian's eyes lit up when he saw the person in front of him and noticed that he did not have any spiritual power fluctuations on him. He was extremely excited as if he could already see himself stepping on Chu Kuangren to avenge himself. As for whether he could do it or not, he did not doubt it at all. He knew that Chu Kuangren could use runic power, but with the heavenly punishment seal on him, how strong could he be even if he could use runic power? Besides, he was no longer the person he was 3 years ago. Chu Kuangren walked to Lan Yu's side with the umbrella. She put away her black veil and took the umbrella from him to shelter him from the snow. Xiao Lintian could not help but laugh out loud in the snowstorm. Chu Kuangren, have you fallen to such a state? Even a small snowstorm scares you? Looks like you've really become a useless mortal. Chapter 450. Looks like you've really become a useless mortal now. Xiao Lingtian's maniacal laughter echoed, and the surrounding sky prides looked at Chu Kuangren thoughtfully. Was Chu Kuangren really not going to return? Phew, Chu Kuangren rubbed his hands and let out a breath. How cold, especially after hearing that lame joke. Chu Kuangren, even if you've become a useless mortal now, don't even think about forgetting the humiliation you've brought me in the past. He lowered his stance, took a step forward, and unleashed a powerful punch. The domineering fist energy surged like a golden torrent, but it was blocked by a runic barrier when it got close to Chu Kuangren. The surrounding sky prides were stunned. I knew it, he has some kind of runic technique. How did he do it? Runes also required spiritual power to activate, but Chu Kuangren had no spiritual power at all, yet he could easily activate tens of thousands of runes. That was something that no one could understand. The blizzard is a force that originates from nature. Chu Kuangren reached out his hand and the snowflakes melted on his palm. He chuckled. I can't believe there are people who would underestimate the blizzard and nature. It seemed like he was talking to Xiao Lintian, but it also seemed like he was talking to everyone else. As soon as he finished speaking, the blizzard around them intensified. It was 10 times or even 100 times stronger than before. The sudden change shocked everyone present. What's going on? Can Chu Kuangren control the blizzard? I've heard people say that runes are the power to simplify the Taoist rhymes of heaven and earth. In other words, it's the power to control nature. It's not surprising that Chu Kuangren can control the blizzard. But isn't this a bit too much? The blizzard that was 100 times stronger than before filled the sky, obscuring everyone's vision. They could not help but channel their spiritual power to resist it. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu, on the other hand, stood where they were, unaffected. The blizzard automatically changed its direction when it approached them. Look! Suddenly, Guo-san exclaimed and looked at the sky. Everyone looked over and sucked in a breath of cold air. In the sky, dark clouds gathered and formed a huge black vortex. Within the vortex, runes appeared one after another, turning into a white sword of wind and snow. The sword of wind and snow, which was over 1,000 feet long, floated above everyone's heads. A terrifying chill swept through the world, causing everyone to shiver. The chill spread out, and all the rivers within 1,000 miles froze. What a terrifying chill! What on earth is the power of this sword? F***ck, if anyone dares to tell me that his cultivation is sealed, I'll slap his mouth. Is this what you call having no cultivation at all? Everyone on the scene was shocked. Especially the arrogant Xiao Lintian, whose face turned slightly pale because he was the target of the blizzard sword. Compared to the others, the pressure he felt was even more terrifying. How could this be? How did his runes reach such a level? Xiao Lintian's face was filled with disbelief. He channeled all of his spiritual power, pushed his heavenly divine imperial physique to its limit, and formed his divine honorable avatar. He looked up into the sky. Not only that, but a spiritual thought shot out from his body and turned into an old man in a golden robe. That old man was the current heavenly Golden Palace sect leader, sage ruler Changqin. What appeared now was a spiritual thought clone of his. What? What's going on? Sage ruler Changqin could not help but gasp at the sight of the 1,000-feet-long blizzard sword in the sky as soon as he appeared. Even he would have a hard time blocking that sword. Sect leader, it's Chu Kuangren. Xiao Lintian said loudly. Sage ruler Changqin looked at Chu Kuangren, who was wrapped in a cloak, and yelled, Chu Kuangren, stop it now. However, Chu Kuangren ignored him and spat out a single word. Fall. Boom. A large portion of the void seemed to be frozen by the chill. Endless snowstorms gathered on the blizzard sword that was formed by intertwining runes, and it suddenly fell. D***mn it. Sage ruler Changqin could not care less anymore. He channeled the power of this spiritual thought clone to its limit and unleashed a palm attack. The palm chi turned into a golden torrent that surged towards the blizzard sword. In less than a breath's time, the golden torrent was eroded by the chill and was frozen into countless pieces of frost. How is this possible? Sage ruler Changqin's pupils shrank as he roared and channeled all his power. However, how much power could he, who was merely an incarnation of his spiritual will, exert? He could not block this sword of wind and snow at all. The sword chi landed on Sage ruler Changqin's body and shattered him. Xiao Lintian, who was left behind, roared and channeled his divine honorable avatar to its limit. Both of his hands gripped the blizzard sword tightly. However, the chill invaded the divine honorable avatar's arms and gradually froze the entire avatar. In the end, it turned into frost and disappeared. At the last moment, Xiao Lintian activated some kind of secret technique to forcefully increase his strength and break out of the blizzard sword's range. However, he was too close to the blizzard sword. When the sword landed on the ground, the entire divine predictor city trembled. The blizzard that swept out enveloped the entire area. Especially where Xiao Lintian was, the blizzard runic power was so dense that it was almost solid. Even if he managed to escape the fate of being hit by the blizzard sword, he could not escape the fate of being frozen by the blizzard. Let's go. Chu Kuangren tightened his cloak and turned to leave. Lan Yu held the umbrella for him and followed closely behind. Master, where are we going next? Next stop, Craggy Ocean Tower. Chu Kuangren's voice drifted into everyone's ears along with the blizzard. When the blizzard's power gradually dissipated, everyone walked out and looked at Chu Kuangren's departing figure with fear in their eyes. That's terrifying. This level of runic Tao is just too terrifying. Look, look! Someone exclaimed and pointed to a spot not far away. At the spot where the blizzard had dissipated stood an ice statue. That ice statue looked extremely lifelike with a horrified expression on its face. It's Xiao Lintian. He's frozen. Everyone walked up to him. Feng Yaorao curiously reached out her hand to touch him. Then, as if she had been electrocuted, she instantly retracted her hand. It's so cold. Her fingers had already turned purple from the cold. If just a touch is so terrifying, then wouldn't the frozen Xiao Lintian be? Before Feng Yaorao could finish her sentence, everyone saw Xiao Lintian, who had been frozen into an ice statue, shatter into pieces of ice crystals. He was as dead as a doornail. Gulp, everyone could not help but gulp, and the fear in their eyes became even more intense. Even someone as strong as Xiao Lintian could not block Chu Kuangren's runic sword. Just how strong was that person? Why do I feel like he's even more terrifying now that he's sealed? Gua San said with a trembling voice. I think he said he was going somewhere. Craggy Ocean Tower. Everyone looked in the same direction. It was the direction of the Craggy Ocean Tower. They all knew that the Craggy Ocean Tower was about to face an unprecedentedly terrifying existence. Chapter 451. Heavenly Golden Palace. Inside a palace, sage ruler Changqin suddenly opened his eyes. His face turned pale as he stared into the distance. His eyes were filled with fear, and he even felt a chill down his spine. Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren. Why are you always against the heavenly golden palace? You destroyed my spiritual will incarnation and killed the proud sons of heaven of my divine palace. This is not over. Their grudge with Chu Kuangren had reached an irreconcilable point. There was no possibility of reconciliation. We must pay close attention to Chu Kuangren's movements. He's going to the Craggy Ocean Towers soon, so we must keep an eye on him, sage ruler Changqin murmured. They had to figure out where Chu Kuangren's limits were. The Craggy Ocean Tower was an unknown land in the past. Now, it was one of the top orthodoxies in the firmament star. There was no lack of great sages and even saint kings among them. In the firmament star, no one dared to underestimate such an orthodoxy. But today, all the cultivators of this orthodoxy were on high alert as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Surrounding the Craggy Ocean Tower were countless ferocious Craggy Ocean bestial souls. There were tens of thousands of them, and their cultivation bases ranged from the Battle Monarch realm to the Honorable realm. There were even sages among them. This was the Craggy Ocean Tower's protective array, the Craggy Ocean Grand Array. The array was filled with Craggy Ocean bestial souls that the Craggy Ocean Tower had collected and refined over the years. There were many different types of monsters and beasts within the array. In one of the palaces of the Craggy Ocean Tower, the Craggy Ocean Tower Lord and the elders were gathered together. It had been 2 days since Chu Kuangren delivered the Crimson Challenge letter. If there were no accidents, the other party should be here by now. The entire Craggy Ocean Tower was on high alert. He's here. The Craggy Ocean Tower Lord suddenly said in a solemn tone. The elders beside him immediately looked into the distance when they heard him. Their gazes pierced through the clouds and landed outside the mountain gate of the Craggy Ocean Tower. They saw a man and a woman standing outside the Craggy Ocean formation. These two people were Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. He's finally here. I've been waiting for a long time. Today, let's make sure they don't return. A few elders said fiercely. In order to deal with Chu Kuangren's arrival, they had made many preparations. They believed that even a sage ruler would not be able to escape alive. As far as he knew, Chu Kuangren had no spiritual power and could not wield an emperor weapon. No matter how strong he was, he could never surpass the level of a sage ruler. Outside the craggy ocean tower, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived outside the mountain sea formation. What goes around comes around. Looking at the mountain sea formation before him, Chu Kuangren chuckled. In the past, they were the ones who came to destroy the Black Heaven Sex formation. Now, it's my turn to destroy theirs. It's a pity this formation isn't the astonishing Cloud of Seas formation, and I'm not them. The wind in the craggy ocean tower is really noisy today. Chu Kuangren lifted his foot and walked into the mountain sea formation. In an instant, dozens of mountain sea origin souls rushed forward. These bestial souls came in all shapes and sizes. There were jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards, and each of them exuded a ferocious aura as they charged towards Chu Kuangren to devour him. Clang! The descendant self-sword at Chu Kuangren's waist automatically unsheathed itself. Sword chi sword, wreaking havoc in the void. One by one, the bestial souls were easily torn apart. Even without Chu Kuangren's control, the descendant self-sword was still a boundary emperor weapon with a sword soul. It possessed terrifying lethality. The descendant self-sword shuttled back and forth around Chu Kuangren, emitting sword chi like a blade storm. All the mountain sea origin souls that got close to it were easily torn apart. None of them could even get close to Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. The two of them strolled towards the craggy ocean tower's grand hall. The further they went, the stronger the bestial souls became. In the end, even sage-level bestial souls appeared. Chu Kuangren shook his head and sighed. What a shame. If Lil Red were here, all she needed to do was bark a few times, and these bestial souls wouldn't dare to move. Lil Red was a godly phoenix, a divine beast. The domineering aura that came from her bloodline and soul was enough to make these mountain sea origin souls surrender. Well, it doesn't matter. Chu Kuangren chuckled. With a lift of his arm, the surrounding spiritual power converged and transformed into a giant golden sword. Violent runic sword chi dispersed, and wherever it went, the craggy sea bestial souls were shredded into pieces. That single sword strike wiped out all the bestial souls along the way. A huge path appeared before Chu Kuangren. Let's go. The two of them had a smooth journey. The elders of the craggy ocean tower were dumbfounded. The craggy ocean formation that they were so proud of was so fragile before Chu Kuangren. It could not even stop him for a second. He's much stronger than we thought. Is this Chu Kuangren's true strength? The craggy ocean tower members looked grim. By then, Chu Kuangren had arrived at the mountain entrance of the craggy ocean tower. There was no one guarding the entrance. Chu Kuangren used his spiritual thought and soon found that the craggy ocean tower members had gathered in front of the grand hall at the mountain peak. Are they trying to gather their forces and fight me to the death? Their courage is commendable. Too bad, it's useless. Chu Kuangren took a step forward and walked towards the mountain peak. There was a flight of bluestone stairs leading to the mountain peak. There were thousands of steps, and Chu Kuangren walked up like a mortal. Lan Yu followed closely behind him. On the mountain peak, the tens of thousands of craggy ocean tower disciples watched as Chu Kuangren made his way up. They did not dare to be careless. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren was walking at a brisk pace as if he was just taking a stroll up the mountain. As time passed, Chu Kuangren got closer and closer to the mountain peak. In front of the grand hall, everyone's expression became more and more serious. The entire grand hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone was nervously preparing for battle. A formless murderous aura enveloped the entire mountain peak. Suddenly, some of the craggy ocean bestial souls seemed to have sensed something and let out an uneasy growl. When Chu Kuangren was halfway up the mountain, a formless fluctuation emanated from his body. One by one, runes condensed around his body and transformed into runic swords. It was a golden runic sword that emanated a sharp aura. Chu Kuangren then took another step forward, and another runic sword was formed. It was an aqua-blue runic sword that surged with surging torrential force. Just like that, a runic sword appeared beside him every time he climbed up the stairs. The number of runic swords around him increased, and they even contained all sorts of natural Taoist rhymes. When Chu Kuangren was about to reach the top of the mountain, his surroundings were already densely covered with countless runic swords. There were fire runic swords, blizzard runic swords, mountain river runic swords, lightning runic swords, sun and moon runic swords. When Chu Kuangren officially reached the top, the boundless runic aura that emanated from the countless runic swords enveloped the entire mountain peak. All the craggy ocean tower disciples felt their mouths go dry when they saw the countless runic swords. It was as if 100,000 mountains were pressing down on them, making it difficult for them to move. There was only one person in front of them, but they felt like he was the entire world. What they were doing was making the entire world their enemy. When everyone was shocked by the countless runic swords before them, Chu Kuangren announced, "My name is Chu Kuangren. Today, I'm here to annihilate your sect with these runic swords." Chapter 452. Boundless Runic Swords, Boundless Nature's Domineering Aura. Chu Kuangren carried a sky full of runic swords that contained boundless nature's Taoist rhymes as he ascended the craggy ocean tower. All the craggy ocean tower disciples were ready to attack. All the great ones who were observing from the shadows were terrified. Kill! Without wasting any time, the craggy ocean tower disciples immediately attacked with all sorts of energy surges towards Chu Kuangren. Boundless energy turned into a monstrous torrent that shook the heavens and earth. However, Chu Kuangren stood his ground with a calm expression. "I am one with nature. How dare you go against the heavens and earth?" He gently moved his finger. In an instant, the sky full of runic swords behind him shot out. 1, 2, 10. Thousands of them. Thousands of runes shot out like rain, and each of them contained an extremely terrifying pressure. The power of wind and frost, the power of lightning, and so on exploded with a loud rumble. They were wrapped in the Taoist rhyme of the sword and tore apart the torrent of energy. A disciple of the Venerable Realm roared as he stared at the runic sword flying towards him. A mountain and sea origin soul materialized from his body and rushed out with a roar. However, it was unable to obstruct the sword at all. Before the runic swords, his craggy ocean bestial soul was as fragile as a thin piece of paper and was easily torn apart. Even when he channeled his spiritual power to its limit, he still could not defend against the runic swords. With a boom, that disciple was torn into pieces by the sword chi. Even an honorable realm disciple was reduced to such a state. Not to mention the other disciples. In the face of the sky full of runic swords, they were like weeds. Wherever the runic swords passed, they were easily harvested. The elders of the craggy ocean tower were enraged by what they saw. "Chu Kuangren, how dare you?" One of the sages roared. He summoned a craggy ocean bestial soul and charged towards Chu Kuangren. However, it was futile. Chu Kuangren killed sages like he was killing dogs. Ordinary sages were no threat to him at all. A rune sword shot out fiercely. That runic sword was much stronger than the others. As soon as the sword chi passed through, the craggy ocean bestial soul and the sages were all killed. "Let's attack together." The sages of the craggy ocean tower roared. They then surrounded Chu Kuangren and released their craggy ocean bestial souls. Their bestial souls were much stronger than the others, and all of them possessed the combat strength of a sage. Including the bestial souls, there were as many as 20 sages surrounding Chu Kuangren. There were even 5 great sages among them. And the craggy ocean tower lord, the holy king, used the mountain river secret medicine. The craggy ocean tower lord said. He took out a pill and threw it to his mountain sea origin spirit. His origin soul was a golden rock. After the rock consumed the pill, its golden eyes gradually became bloodshot. With a long cry, its body began to expand, becoming 2 or 3 times larger. When its wings were spread out, they were hundreds of feet long and looked extremely imposing. The other elders also fed their mountain and sea source spirits a secret medicine, causing their source spirit's strength to wildly increase. The effects of this secret medicine were powerful, but after using it, these bestial souls would enter a long period of debilitation and would no longer be able to battle. However, in order to deal with Chu Kuangren, they did not think too much about it. Go! At his command, more than 10 extremely powerful bestial souls who had consumed the secret medicine charged towards Chu Kuangren. Their ferocious chi was so strong that it stirred up the winds and clouds. The runic swords around Chu Kuangren were unleashed. However, even though his rune swords were powerful and numerous, it was not easy for him to kill these origin souls who were comparable to great saints. With a move of his spiritual thoughts, the rune swords around him shattered and turned into mysterious runes. Then, they all gathered together to form a colorful sword of nature that contained infinite power. Go! The sword of nature swept out. Although the bestial soul's strength was comparable to a great sage's, it was still not enough against this sword. As the sword chi swept past, the bestial souls were easily crushed. Avarice Palm. Mystical Cheongchi Palm. While Chu Kuangren was dealing with the bestial souls, the sages and sage rulers took the opportunity to attack. Their surging Taoist rhymes erupted and turned into a ferocious beast's palm energy. However, when the palm energy was about to land on Chu Kuangren, a black veil suddenly appeared and blocked the palm energy. It was Lan Yu. She had used her Boundary Emperor weapon to block all the attacks. It's a Boundary Emperor weapon. This guy has a Boundary Emperor weapon to protect himself. The Craggy Ocean Tower's sages were shocked. The Craggy Ocean Tower used to have a Boundary Emperor weapon too, which was the Craggy Ocean Scroll. However, 3 years ago, when the previous Craggy Ocean Tower Lord brought this item to the Black Heaven sect, the scroll was lost and ended up in Chu Kuangren's hands. I'll destroy this Boundary Emperor weapon. The Craggy Ocean Tower Lord roared as a surge of spiritual power and an extremely powerful Taoist rhyme appeared on his body. In an instant, 4 ferocious beast silhouettes appeared around him. They were the Cheong Chi, Avarice, and Taowu, the 4 chaotic beasts. These 4 beasts emanated an endless ferocious chi as they charged towards the Black Veil. Their terrifying strength was even stronger than the previous Craggy Ocean Tower Lords, causing the veil to tremble a few times. Chu Kuangren activated his spiritual thought upon seeing that. The surrounding spiritual chi surged and converged towards him. 4 golden rune swords manifested. 4 swords against 4 ferocious beasts. When the 2 forces collided, the entire mountain peak collapsed and the sea of clouds within a 1,000-kilometer radius rumbled and surged. One by one, the disciples were sent flying by the powerful energy. The sages could not help but channel their spiritual power to defend themselves. Chu Kuangren and the Craggy Ocean Tower Lord took the brunt of the impact. The Craggy Ocean Tower Lord was sent flying and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, Chu Kuangren stood his ground and did not budge an inch. The terrifying impact was completely nullified by the Black Veil. Is this all you've got? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He gently lifted his arm, and the runic swords that covered half the sky once again condensed. A majestic pressure then enveloped everyone. Chu Kuangren, if you really destroy the Craggy Ocean Tower, aren't you afraid that the world will attack you for what you've done? The Craggy Ocean Tower Lord said loudly. Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh. The world will attack me? Ha, didn't I already do that? Since I'm no longer tolerated by the world, I won't tolerate them either. Let them come. I'd like to see what they can do to me. Chu Kuangren laughed as a terrifying surge of sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted from his body. It soared into the sky and swept across the land. Above his head, the runic swords seemed to be resonating with the sword-based Taoist rhyme, and the sound of the swords ringing echoed through the clouds. Everyone looked at the white-robed figure and gulped. One man dared to go against the entire world. What kind of courage and capability was that? So this is the Chu Kuangren who has been famous since 3 years ago. There's only one Chu Kuangren in history. The newly ascended sage who had previously declared that he would take Chu Kuangren's head was already pale. He had lost all will to fight. All the great ones who were secretly observing fell silent as well. It was the same 3 years ago, and it was still the same 3 years later. The entire world was suppressed by a single person. Chapter 453. Chu Kuangren, if you were born in my craggy ocean tower, I wouldn't mind kowtowing and burning incense for you every day. The craggy ocean tower lord suddenly said. He looked at Chu Kuangren with a complicated expression that was mixed with amazement and pity. The crowd was in an uproar when they heard him say that. They did not expect the craggy ocean tower lord to have such high regard for Chu Kuangren. Not only him, but the great ones who were secretly observing had similar thoughts as well. To them, Chu Kuangren was too outstanding. He was worthy of being called the first person in history. If such a person were born in their orthodoxy, it would be a great help to them. So what if they kowtowed to him and worshipped him like an ancestor? Too bad, you're not. That's why you and the craggy ocean tower are destined to fight to the death. The craggy ocean tower lord's eyes turned cold. He let out a long roar, and a surge of Taoist rhyme gushed out of his body and gradually enveloped the entire craggy ocean tower. Vaguely, a low roar came from the depths of the craggy ocean tower. The roar was like thunder that shook hundreds of kilometers. It also contained a strange energy that made the bestial souls of all the cultivators who heard it tremble. It was as if even their souls were shaken. A terrifying existence had been awakened. Roar! While everyone was still in shock, an even louder roar erupted. The mountains and rivers within a 10,000-kilometer radius trembled, and countless beasts fell to the ground. A terrifying ferocious chi spread out from somewhere in the craggy ocean tower. The great ones who were secretly observing were shocked. This aura is not to be underestimated. What is it? Chu Kuangren also looked into the distance curiously. It seems like the craggy ocean tower still has some tricks up their sleeves. He raised his hand to activate the rune sword in the sky and swung it. The runic swords rained down like a torrential downpour. Boom, 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 the entire mountain range was reduced to ashes under the attack of the runic swords, and the billowing dust covered a 1,000-kilometer radius. Even a sage ruler might not be able to withstand such an attack. However, the roar did not stop. With a roar, a violent gust of wind swept out. The surrounding dust dissipated. A fierce beast source spirit appeared in front of everyone. This ferocious beast's entire body was crimson like a cheetah. Its eyes were like glazed crystals, it had 5 tails, and there was a single horn on its head. The breath it exhaled was like raging flames, burning the surrounding vegetation into ashes. When Chu Kuangren saw this bestial soul, he activated his Eye of Revelation. Compared to other abilities, the Eye of Revelation didn't need the support of spiritual power. The usage of this divine power relied more on spiritual power. In an instant, the beast's information appeared in front of him. Ho, an ancient ferocious beast from the firmament star. Its voice has a soul-sucking effect. It specializes in fire elemental Tao and is currently in the form of a bestial soul. TCH, this is a real vicious beast source spirit. Chu Kuangren said in surprise. 3 years ago, when the craggy ocean tower was attacking the Black Heaven sect, they had summoned the gluttonous devouring beast, Chengqi, Taowu, and the chaotic 4 ferocious beasts. However, the craggy ocean tower had only imitated and refined the 4 beasts based on ancient records. They could not be considered as true bestial souls. But this Ho in front of him was a true vicious beast origin soul. Its cultivation level was as high as a sage ruler. As a wild beast, its combat strength would definitely surpass that of an ordinary sage ruler. Chu Kuangren estimated that it was on par with a 5-step sage ruler. Aside from boundary emperors, this was the strongest sage ruler Chu Kuangren had ever encountered. Even the serpent deity was no match for it. Chu Kuangren. This is a craggy ocean bestial soul Ho left behind by the craggy ocean tower's ancestors. Today, I shall use it to kill you. The craggy ocean tower lord said loudly. A surge of Taoist rhyme flowed around his body, summoning the ferocious beast in the distance. The ferocious beast stepped through the air, its ferocious chi surging violently. Wherever it went, the void trembled. One by one, the mountains crumbled under the ferocious beast's charge. The craggy ocean tower's disciples were dumbfounded by its power. What a terrifying bestial soul! I can't believe our craggy ocean tower has such power. It was obvious that the Ho's existence was a top secret within the craggy ocean tower. Apart from the craggy ocean tower lord and a few elders, no one else knew about it. Soon, the Ho arrived on top of Chu Kuangren's head. Its crimson-red body exuded a powerful aura of oppression. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and condensed a runic sword before he slashed out. The runic swords rained down on the Ho's body, but they were all blocked by its ferocious chi. This Ho is a little tricky, Chu Kuangren murmured. The Ho opened its mouth and spat out a ball of scorching flames. The surrounding void was almost warped by the scorching heat. The craggy ocean tower's disciples who were close to the Ho were instantly incinerated. This is bad. Retreat. Get away from this place. The sages yelled. The Ho was a wild beast. Wild beasts, on the other hand, were ferocious by nature. Coupled with the fact that they had been refined into a bestial soul, they were even more vengeful. Although the craggy ocean tower lord was controlling them, all they cared about was getting rid of Chu Kuangren. They did not care about the lives of the other craggy ocean tower disciples. The flames landed on the black cloak, causing it to tremble. However, that power was not enough to break through the Boundary Emperor weapon's defense. Chu Kuangren raised his hand, and the surrounding spiritual power surged. Countless runes formed in the void, forming a giant runic sword. Dream on. At that moment, the craggy ocean tower lord made his move. He unleashed a punch and shattered the runes in the air. Chu Kuangren would need some time to condense a runic sword strong enough to kill the Meng beast. However, the craggy ocean tower lord and the Meng beast would not give him that time. Both sides were locked in a fierce battle. The Meng beast and the craggy ocean tower lord continued to attack the black cloak, trying to break through the Boundary Emperor weapon's defense. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren unleashed his runic swords one after another. Although it was powerful, it was not enough to hurt his opponent. The battle was at a stalemate. Roar! At that moment, the Ho let out a furious roar. That roar contained a soul-stealing effect. Lan Yu was affected, and a gap appeared in the black cloak's defense, giving the craggy ocean tower lord an opening. The other sages also seized the opportunity. Quick, now! Attack! All the sages attacked at once. Surges of Taoist rhymes erupted and surged towards Chu Kuangren, breaking through the black cloak's defense. However, at that moment, a runic barrier formed by intertwining runes appeared in front of Chu Kuangren. It emanated an indestructible Taoist rhyme. The sages' attacks landed on the runic barrier, but they were all blocked. What? Chu Kuangren is not affected by the Meng beast's roar. That's a spiritual attack. The sage's eyes shrunk in disbelief. The Ho's roar had a soul-stealing effect. Once it unleashed its full power, even the strongest sage would be affected. However, Chu Kuangren was not affected at all. Little did they know that Chu Kuangren had the conjurer talent, which allowed his spiritual thoughts to block out spiritual attacks. Coupled with his rock-solid Taoist core, he would not be affected even if the Meng beast's roar was 10 times stronger. Beside him, Lan Yu regained her senses and reactivated the black cloak to protect the two of them. She stared at the Meng beast cautiously. She guarded her mind against the Meng beast's next roar. However, the Meng beast only roared but did not attack again. It was obvious that the Meng beast's roar could not be used casually. It had some kind of limitation. Chapter 454. The ferocious roar was completely useless against Chu Kuangren. The craggy ocean tower lord and the others were shocked. After all, the ferocious roar was a direct attack that even a sage ruler could not resist. Such an ability could be said to be their biggest trump card against Chu Kuangren. However, they did not expect that it would be completely useless. The ferocious roar consumed a large portion of the Chi's soul energy every time it was used. Hence, it could only be used once a day. Now that you guys have revealed your trump cards, it's my turn. Chu Kuangren said. He looked up into the sky. It's almost done. The crowd did not know what he meant, but they instinctively felt that something was wrong. They quickly looked up into the sky. In the sky, lines of mysterious runes crisscrossed and converged to form a gigantic mystical rune. This talisman blotted out the sky and covered the entire mountain peak. The crowd could sense an indescribable mysterious energy from the rune. It was as if the surrounding spiritual qi had been sucked dry. Fall! Chu Kuangren commanded. In an instant, the gigantic rune fell from the sky, and the crowd channeled their spiritual energies to resist it. However, when the rune landed on their bodies, they did not feel any damage at all. They could not help but feel confused. However, they soon realized that something was wrong. The space around them seemed to have been sealed by an unknown force, turning it into a huge quagmire. They could not even move a finger. This is a spatial rune. The most complicated spatial rune among all runes? How did he create a spatial rune that can seal even a sage? I can't believe his runic mastery has reached such a level. The sages at the scene looked terrified. Even the scarlet beast could not move under the pressure of the rune. This rune took a lot of my spiritual thoughts. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Then, he raised his hand and formed runic swords in the void. They were like a sky full of stars that hung above everyone's heads. Surges of runic aura spread. The craggy ocean tower lord and the others channeled their spiritual energies to break free from the spatial rune's seal. However, the rune's power was too strong. Even a sage ruler would not be able to break free in a short amount of time. That time was enough for Chu Kuangren to destroy the entire craggy ocean tower. Chu Kuangren, stop. Stop right now. The craggy ocean tower lord roared in a frenzy. However, Chu Kuangren did not care about them at all. He raised his hand and pressed it down on the ground. Instantly, countless runic swords fell from the sky like falling stars, covering the entire craggy ocean tower. The deafening rumbles shook the surrounding area. This was especially true for the craggy ocean tower lord. Chu Kuangren paid special attention to the mountain peak where the menacing beast was. Most of his runic swords landed there. A terrifying rune energy spread out, shaking the void. It also shook the hearts of all the almighties who were secretly watching the battle. They had never seen anyone who could use the Tao of runes to such an extent. This kind of technique was like the supreme king of runes. After the terrifying runic storm, the entire craggy ocean tower was riddled with holes and cracks. In the entire craggy ocean tower, there were only a few people left standing. Severed limbs and flesh splattered everywhere. It was like purgatory on earth. The air was filled with the nauseating smell of blood. On top of the mountain, almost all of the craggy ocean tower's sages were killed. Even the bodies of the sages were as fragile as paper under the bombardment of the runes. The menacing beast had also dissipated. Even a sage ruler like the craggy ocean tower lord was covered in wounds. He looked around at the craggy ocean tower and the countless disciples who were wailing on the ground. His eyes were filled with despair. He looked at Chu Kuangren and yelled, "Chu Kuangren! Your actions are no different from the demonic Tao. With your cruel nature, you will be punished by the heavens one day. I curse you to die a horrible death." Chu Kuangren's expression did not change in the slightest in the face of the craggy ocean tower lord's curses. 3 years ago, if I didn't use the heavenly tribulation to annihilate a million-strong army of cultivators, do you think the Black Heaven sect's fate would be any better than the craggy ocean towers? No one can get away scot-free after doing something wrong. Be it mortals or sages, they're all the same. Chu Kuangren said calmly as 2 runic swords appeared in his hands. The craggy ocean tower only has themselves to blame for what happened today. Besides, I've given you guys a chance. I've sent someone to inform you guys to leave if you don't want to die. You're the one who gathered all of the craggy ocean tower's disciples to deal with me. It was your stupidity that caused everyone's death. Chu Kuangren's words were as sharp as knives. Every word he uttered pierced into the craggy ocean tower lord's heart, causing his face to turn even paler. Not only did he want to kill, but he also wanted to destroy their hearts. Alright, on your way to the underworld, go and slowly make amends to your disciples. Chu Kuangren raised his hand slightly after he finished speaking. 2 rune swords shot out. One sword pierced through the other party's heart, and the other cut off the other party's head. A saint king had fallen completely. A top-notch orthodoxy had completely vanished into thin air. Everyone who witnessed this scene was speechless. Their hearts were filled with speechless astonishment. This was the unknown place of the past. This was a top-notch orthodoxy that had been passed down for close to 100,000 years. But now, it had been completely annihilated in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone stared at Chu Kuangren, who was standing in the middle of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. His white robes were as clean as ever, and their hearts were shrouded in a thick sense of fear. A top-notch orthodoxy had been annihilated by a single person. After 3 years, Chu Kuangren had returned to the world. Even with the heavenly punishment seal on him, he had displayed even more terrifying combat strength. 5 more, Chu Kuangren murmured. His voice was not loud, but everyone could hear him clearly. Everyone knew what he meant by 5 more. He was referring to the remaining 5 orthodoxies. The great ones of the Acheron Manor, the bottomless chasm, the sacred palace of death, the ethereal rapture, and the heavenly golden palace were shocked. The craggy ocean tower had been annihilated. What about them? Would they be able to survive? No one knew, but no one dared to underestimate the heavenly punishment seal on Chu Kuangren anymore. They had to gather all their strength to deal with him. After annihilating the craggy ocean tower, Chu Kuangren cleaned up the battlefield. He went to the largest treasure vault in the craggy ocean tower and stored all the resources inside into his yin and yang ring. Then, he found a chest in the treasure vault. Inside the chest were strange spheres with mysterious soul fluctuations circulating around them. These are bestial soul seeds. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up when he saw the chest of bestial soul seeds. Bestial soul seeds were the secret technique that the craggy ocean tower's cultivators used to summon the craggy ocean bestial souls into battle. Every cultivator who had refined the bestial soul seed would obtain a bestial soul as a battle companion. There were strong and weak bestial souls, but it was undeniable that this technique was extremely mystical. This chest of bestial soul seeds was also extremely valuable, and it could be considered the craggy ocean tower's greatest treasure vault. Let's bring this chest of bestial soul seeds back. When the time comes, Nangong Huang and the others can each pick one of them and keep them as pets. Chu Kuangren said with a satisfied smile. Chapter 455. The news of Chu Kuangren annihilating the craggy ocean tower spread like wildfire across the entire firmament star. Every cultivator who received the news was shocked. After all, that was a top-notch orthodoxy that had many sages guarding it. Yet now, it was gone just like that. It was single-handedly annihilated by a single person. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren, who was already the center of attention, did not immediately head to the next orthodoxy for revenge after annihilating the craggy ocean tower. Instead, he brought Lan Yu with him and disappeared. All those who wanted to track down his whereabouts had not succeeded. Inside the heavenly golden palace, sage ruler Changqin was extremely worried. Chu Kuangren's strength is much more terrifying than I thought. It won't be easy to kill him now. Sigh, sage ruler Changqin sighed. At this point, he was starting to blame the previous heavenly golden palace lord. Why did you go and provoke that monster? Now, he had to deal with this problem himself. Sage ruler Changqin was so worried that his hair had turned white. At this moment, an incredibly powerful aura suddenly erupted from one of the mountains in the heavenly golden palace. It was as if a heavenly venerable had descended and swept across the entire heavenly golden palace. Not only that, but the terrifying aura continued to spread. In the blink of an eye, it had spread across half of Firmament Star. All the great ones on Firmament Star were shocked and looked towards the direction of the heavenly golden palace suspiciously. This aura. Someone is about to become a sage. Such a powerful sage aura. All the great ones activated their spiritual thoughts and scanned the direction of the heavenly golden palace. Soon, they locked onto the source of the aura. On one of the mountains in the heavenly golden palace, a gust of wind blew and clouds surged. Rays of light appeared in the sky and formed into a colorful tribulation cloud. A colorful tribulation cloud. Since Chu Kuangren 3 years ago, a colorful tribulation cloud had appeared. All the great ones were shocked. Following that, a young man with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes slowly walked out from one of the caves on the mountain peak. It's the young master. The young master has come out of his closed-door meditation. Not only that, but he's also going to ascend. The elders of the heavenly golden palace were excited. Not only them, but even sage ruler Changqin was excited. It's Xiao Jingchen. The Sky Pride ranked 3rd on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, a Sky Pride from the 9 heavens. Rumor has it that this person was a Sky Pride from the heavenly golden palace tens of thousands of years ago. However, he entered the Misty Sea, a forbidden land, and no one has heard from him since. However, 3 years ago, he suddenly returned from the 9 heavens, declaring that he would fight for the throne of this world. Correct. Rumor has it that this person slaughtered saints like dogs. A year ago, he went into seclusion, and now that he has come out, he wants to become a saint. He actually caused such a commotion. It's the Rainbow Heavenly Tribulation. This is the second time I've seen a Rainbow Heavenly Tribulation since Chu Kuangren. Can this person really fight against Chu Kuangren? Let's wait and see. Xiao Jingchen stood proudly under the Heavenly Tribulation. The Taoist rhymes of the heavenly golden imperial physique circulated, and it was incomparably domineering, as if it could suppress the heavens. Compared to Xiao Lintian, his heavenly golden imperial physique was even more terrifying, and this was the true perfect heavenly golden imperial physique. 7-colored heavenly tribulation, interesting. Since ancient times, only a handful of people have been able to overcome the 7-colored heavenly tribulation. I, Xiao Jingchen, am one of them. Xiao Jingchen murmured as his eyes lit up. Tens of thousands of years ago, he went to the forbidden area, the Misty Ocean, in search of an opportunity to become an emperor. However, to no avail. Instead, he entered the 9 heavens through the spatial rift there and joined a powerful orthodoxy. However, even in the 9 heavens, tens of thousands of years ago, it was still the Dharma-ending era. In order to fight for the throne of this era, he chose to hibernate. He only woke up not long ago. The throne of this era belongs to me. Even the 7-colored heavenly tribulation can't stop me. Xiao Jingchen said, his body as straight as a sword. Boom! At that moment, the first tribulation lightning struck. Xiao Jingchen threw out a punch and forcefully broke through the tribulation lightning in an extremely domineering manner. The terrifying strength of his punch shocked everyone. The second, third, fourth, as the tribulation lightning's strength increased, so did his fist energy. It was like a bottomless pit, so deep that one could not see the bottom. Everyone was in awe. Is this the true strength of the heavenly golden imperial physique? Compared to him, Xiao Lintian's strength is nothing. Is this the power of a Sky Pride from the 9 heavens? He's too powerful. Xiao Jingchen was in high spirits as he faced the 7-colored heavenly tribulation. He laughed loudly. The 7-colored heavenly tribulation is just so. Heaven and earth trembled at his bold words. The tribulation clouds in the sky surged, and even more terrifying tribulation lightning struck. This time, Xiao Jingchen was in a sorry state. He was barely able to handle the 6th and 7th tribulation lightning strikes. By the 8th tribulation lightning strike, he was already severely injured. I was too careless. Xiao Jingchen spat out a mouthful of blood. The aura of the heavenly golden imperial physique seemed a little weak. Everyone did not laugh at him. After all, this was the seven-colored heavenly tribulation. Boom! The ninth tribulation lightning struck. Seeing that the tribulation lightning was about to strike, Xiao Jingqian suddenly took out a black spear and thrust it out. A terrifying emperor's aura swept out. That's a monarch weapon. Everyone exclaimed. With the monarch weapon in hand, Xiao Jingqian barely survived the ninth tribulation lightning strike. Soon, the tribulation lightning dissipated. Rays of sage light descended from the sky. Xiao Jingqian was bathed in the sacred light, and his aura rose steadily. With his unparalleled talent and deep understanding of Daoist techniques, Xiao Jingqian had passed the boundary sage stage and became a sage. A sage aura that far surpassed the average sage swept out. All the disciples of the heavenly golden palace looked at Xiao Jingqian passionately. He's so powerful. Our young master is too powerful. He can even survive the seven-colored heavenly tribulation. Who else in the current heavenly tribulation can compare to him? Even Chu Kuangren is slightly weaker than him. But I heard that Chu Kuangren's nine-colored heavenly tribulation is even more terrifying than the seven-colored heavenly tribulation. Pfft, so what? In the end, he was still sealed away by the heavenly punishment. He's definitely not as powerful as the young master now. That's right. Our young master is the strongest. Now that he has become a sage, his ranking on the soaring dragon leaderboard will surely change again. In the firmament star, the great ones and sky prides could not help but feel shocked when they sensed Xiao Jingqian's powerful aura after becoming a sage. Ha, Xiao Jingqian, I didn't expect you to become a sage before me. But I'll catch up soon. In a mountain range, a burly young man laughed as he looked towards the heavenly golden palace's direction while stepping on a giant bear. Around him and the giant bear, there were obvious signs of battle. The mountains within a 1,000-kilometer radius were all destroyed. It was as if dozens of sages were engaged in a chaotic battle. At another location, a black-robed woman with a metal mask on her face also looked towards the heavenly golden palace's direction. F***CK, I can't believe he became a sage before me. You're in the limelight. Just you wait. In a few days, I'll beat the crap out of you after I become a sage. The woman said angrily. She was in a bad mood. Behind her, there was a thick fog. Low growls could be heard coming from within the fog as if it was a demonic beast from hell. What are you growling for? If you keep growling, I'll stew you. Sob sob, the thick fog let out two whimpers as if it was wronged. In the ancient battlefield, one of the 10 great forbidden areas. Oh, Xiao Jingqian has become a sage. Then I'll have to pick up the pace. I didn't expect there to be such a good place in the firmament star. It's the perfect place for me to become a sage. In a barren mountain range, a black-armored young man mumbled to himself. Behind him was a large group of tormented souls that exuded a monstrous murderous aura. As Xiao Jingqian became a sage, it triggered a chain reaction. Chapter 456. Inside the Heavenly Golden Palace. After Xiao Jingqian became a sage, the entire Heavenly Golden Palace was in an uproar. Many people looked at Xiao Jingqian with admiration. Some of the ladies even had stars in their eyes. Young master, congratulations on becoming a sage. Sage ruler Changqin brought a group of sages to Xiao Jingqian. In terms of seniority, Xiao Jingqian was tens of thousands of years old, so it was not unusual for him to address him as young master. Yes. Xiao Jingqian smiled and nodded. He was very happy that he had become a sage through the seven-colored heavenly tribulation. He was one step closer to becoming an emperor. By the way, where's Xiao Lintian? Xiao Jingqian suddenly asked. Xiao Jingqian still cared a lot about Xiao Lintian, a sky pride who also had the heavenly golden imperial physique. He had even planned to train Xiao Lintian to be his right-hand man. The faces of sacred ruler Changqin and the others darkened upon hearing his words. What happened? Xiao Jingqian asked with a frown. Young master, Xiao Lintian, is dead. Sage ruler Changqin took a deep breath and said. A cold murderous intent shot out from Xiao Jingchen's eyes. He had just become a sage, so he could not fully control his own aura. His sage aura swept out, pressuring everyone at the scene. Even sage ruler Changqin could not help but feel his scalp tingle. So powerful. Is this the power of a sage with the heavenly golden imperial physique? Tell me, what happened? Xiao Jingchen slowly retracted his aura and asked. Sage ruler Changqin breathed a sigh of relief and told him everything about Xiao Lingtian's challenge to Chu Kuangren. At the same time, he also told them about Chu Kuangren's information. Oh, Chu Kuangren. You mean the person who dragged hundreds of thousands of people with him during the 9-colored heavenly tribulation 3 years ago? Xiao Jingchen's eyes were filled with surprise. When he first heard about Chu Kuangren, he was also shocked. He did not expect such a person to exist in the firmament star. However, when he heard that Chu Kuangren had been struck by the heavenly punishment seal, he did not care anymore. After all, Chu Kuangren was just a mortal. Yet now, Chu Kuangren had reappeared. A special rune technique? Now I'm a little interested in meeting this Chu Kuangren. However, I've only just ascended to a sage, so I'll need to spend a few days to stabilize myself. By then, I'll show him who's truly the best in this world. Xiao Jingchen waved his sleeve and said coldly. On the hidden dragon ranking, he was ranked 3rd. Before Chu Kuangren's appearance, the first place had always been empty. Now that Chu Kuangren had snatched the first place away from him as soon as he appeared, he was extremely displeased. He secretly made up his mind to snatch the first place back. In a desert, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu walked against the sandstorm. Mister, that aura just now was very strong. Was that a genius from the 9 heavens? Lan Yu asked curiously. Yes, it should be. He came from the direction of the heavenly golden palace, so he must be the 9 heavens sky pride, Xiao Jingchen, who was ranked 3rd on the soaring dragon leaderboard and is currently ranked 2nd. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. He was not too concerned about it. The two of them walked in the desert for 2 days straight. Along the way, they saw many strange desert wonders. Then, they came to a place that was filled with intense ferocious qi. This place was one of the 10 great forbidden areas of Firmament Star, the ancient battlefield. I wonder how the white-robed general is doing. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He was going to Acheron Manor to settle the score, but when he passed by the ancient battlefield, he decided to visit the white-robed general on a whim. After all, the white-robed general had promised to help him collect innate ferocious qi to forge a perfect supreme infallible tormented physique. Now that a few years had passed, Chu Kuangren wondered how the white-robed general was doing and if it was enough to upgrade his infallible tormented physique to its complete form. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived at the ancient battlefield's core area. He took out the jade pendant that he used to contact the white-robed general. However, after half an hour, he still did not see the white-robed general. He continued to wait. After a day and a night, there was still no news. At that moment, Chu Kuangren realized that something was wrong. Did something happen? Chu Kuangren frowned as he released his spiritual thoughts to search for the ancient battlefield's core area. The desolate and barren scene appeared in his mind. Chu Kuangren searched carefully. However, he still could not find the white-robed general. Was he not at the ancient battlefield? That was not right. The tormented souls that were born in the ancient battlefield were closely connected to this place, so it was impossible for them to leave. Not even a sage ruler could do so. The white-robed general had also said that he could not leave this place. Could he be dead? That would explain why he could not find the white-robed general. However, who could kill the white-robed general, one of the ancient battlefield's 3 kings? Chu Kuangren did not make any immediate deductions and continued to search. Soon, he found something. There was a palace in the ancient battlefield, and it was filled with a huge amount of ferocious qi that was so dense that it was almost solid. This ferocious qi was preventing Chu Kuangren's spiritual thoughts from probing inside. Oh, is the white-robed general here? Chu Kuangren murmured. Let's go in and take a look. There had to be an explanation for this. The white-robed general was collecting the innate ferocious qi for him, and his descendant, Shang Qingxue, was also a disciple who had gone through thick and thin with the Xian Tian sect. Chu Kuangren brought Lan Yu and stepped into the ancient battlefield's core area. A dense and familiar ferocious qi surged towards them. Lan Yu activated her light-based Taoist rhyme to defend against it. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren's invisible mind power had formed an invisible barrier that isolated the ferocious qi. They were not tormented souls, so the ferocious qi was like a poisonous gas to them. Inhaling too much of it would be harmful. Both of them walked towards the palace in the ancient battlefield's core area. With their strength, the tormented souls that they encountered along the way were easily dealt with. They even collected a few surges of innate ferocious qi. A living person. Another living person has appeared in the ancient battlefield. Both of them encountered another tormented soul. This tormented soul's cultivation level was obviously not low, and it had gained sentience because of the innate ferocious qi. When it saw Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu, it could not help but be surprised. Chu Kuangren was quite concerned about what it said. Again? Could there be other living people in the ancient battlefield's core area besides him and Lan Yu? Who is this living person you're talking about? Chu Kuangren asked. You have no right to ask for that person's name. Go to hell. That tormented soul did not say another word and immediately attacked. He threw out a punch that was filled with ferocious qi. Forget it, I'll figure it out myself. Chu Kuangren raised his arm and unleashed a runic sword. The sword qi immediately pierced through the ferocious qi and pierced through the tormented soul. With a loud explosion, the tormented soul was instantly destroyed. Chu Kuangren raised his arm and grabbed a surge of innate ferocious qi with his mind power. He then threw it into his yin and yang ring. Let's continue. A few hours later, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived at the palace. Inside the palace, a middle-aged man in a blood-red robe who was surrounded by black ferocious qi abruptly opened his eyes. The aura of a living person doesn't belong to Master Daoist Sha. There's also a disgusting light aura as well. Who could it be? Chapter 457. Inside a palace at the center of the ancient battlefield. A tormented soul dressed in a blood-red robe slowly stood up with a terrifying ferocious qi emanating from his body as he stared outside the palace. After a while, cries of agony could be heard coming from outside the palace. One by one, the tormented souls were torn apart by the runic swords. A man and a woman slowly walked in and looked around the palace. It looked like they were visiting a tourist attraction. How dare you trespass into the Blood Fiend Temple? Do you have a death wish? The man in the blood-red robe stood up and locked his gaze on Chu Kuangren and the woman. Ferocious qi swirled around him as a huge domineering aura gushed out. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation. Blood Fury Sage Ruler, one of the ancient battlefield's 3 sovereigns, after Chu Kuangren finished reading the information, he said, I'm only here to ask one thing. Where is the white-robed general? Oh, you're here to look for the white-robed general? Blood Fury Sage Ruler was surprised. I didn't expect a living person to step into the ancient battlefield to look for him. What a surprise. Who are you to him? None of your business. Where is he? He's locked up here. If you want to save him, you'll have to kill me first. Otherwise, you'll have to stay here with him. Blood Fury Sage Ruler grinned as his ferocious qi surged. I'll fulfill your wish then. Chu Kuangren said as he raised his arm to gather runes in the sky. Runic swords were formed one after another, encompassing everything in the world. The extremely powerful rune pressure almost instantly broke through Blood Fury Saint Ruler's ferocious aura pressure and enveloped him. At this moment, Saint King Shui Sha, who was originally full of confidence because of his Saint Ruler cultivation, suddenly narrowed his eyes in shock. F***ck me. What kind of aura was this? The rune swords were like a meteor shower that pierced through the air. Blood Fury Sage Ruler roared as he took out a blood-red spear and waved it around, shattering the runic swords one by one. What terrifying runic energy! Who the hell is this person? The tormented souls of the ancient battlefield could not leave the ancient battlefield, so they did not know much about the outside world. They had never even heard of Chu Kuangren. 1, 2, 10, 100, more and more rune swords were smashed by Blood Fury Sage King, and the energy waves that were released caused the entire palace to shake. Damn it, if this goes on, there's no way we can win. Blood Fury Sage Ruler gritted his teeth as a vicious look flashed across his eyes. His figure turned into a blood-colored stream of light and shot towards Chu Kuangren. He ignored the runic sword that was coming at him and only used his extremely clever movement techniques and battle experience to dodge it. Although he still sustained quite a few injuries, he had already arrived in front of Chu Kuangren. The blood-red spear in his hand was condensed with surges of blood-red ferocious chi, as if it had transformed into a ferocious water dragon that was about to tear at Chu Kuangren. Blood Flood Dragon Divine Killing Spear. This attack was so powerful that it almost pierced through the void. But at this moment, a black veil appeared. The blood-colored flood dragon landed on the veil, causing circles of ripples to appear on the veil. The energy that escaped from the ripples tore the ground apart and shook the surroundings. What? This is a quasi-emperor weapon. Blood Fury Saint Ruler's pupils contracted. Chu Kuangren chuckled. A few runic swords were already floating above Blood Fury Sage Ruler's head, and they came crashing down like meteors. Boom! The rune swords pierced through Blood Fury Sage Ruler's body and pinned him to the ground. The runes that formed these rune swords were all saint-grade runes. Their Taoist rhymes were extremely terrifying, just like 100,000 mountains. Once Blood Fury Sage Ruler was pinned, he could not move at all. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and was about to end his opponent. However, at that moment, Blood Fury Sage Ruler's body released surges of blood-colored flames, and his aura instantly skyrocketed several times. He had ignited his tormented body. Rise! A violent ferocious chi erupted from Blood Fury Sage Ruler's body, instantly shattering the few runic swords that were nailed to his back. Then, he got up and charged towards Chu Kuangren, the blood-red spear in his hand once again piercing the black veil. This time, the black veil caved in, and the blood-red spear continued to approach Chu Kuangren as if it was going to pierce through him. Unfortunately, you're not strong enough. You've given me some time. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. A silver-white rune condensed in his palm and slowly rotated. It was an incredibly mysterious spatial rune. That spatial rune was exactly the same as the one Chu Kuangren used to suppress the countless sages in the craggy ocean tower. However, it was much smaller. It was the spatial freeze rune. As the name suggested, it could freeze space. This rune was also the most mysterious sage-grade rune recorded in the Elysium Emperor scripture. It was second only to an Emperor-grade rune, and an ordinary talisman master would not be able to draw a trace of it even if they spent their entire lives. Even Chu Kuangren would need to spend some time to prepare. When he realized that Blood Fury Sage Ruler was a sage ruler, he had split a part of his spiritual thought to draw this rune. Although it was not as powerful as the one he used in the craggy ocean tower, it was still powerful enough to suppress Blood Fury Sage Ruler. The freeze rune was slowly formed. When that rune landed on the tip of the spear, a mysterious spatial fluctuation appeared and enveloped the space 10 feet around Blood Fury Sage Ruler. He was trapped inside, unable to move. D***mn D***mn. Blood Fury Sage Ruler burned his tormented physique to quickly dissolve the effects of the freeze rune. However, that amount of time was enough for Chu Kuangren to kill him. More than 10 runic swords converged and pierced through the air. Blood Fury Sage Ruler could not withstand the power of the runes and was instantly destroyed, his soul dispersing. All that was left was a large cloud of innate ferocious chi and a blood-colored spear. Chu Kuangren looked at the innate ferocious chi and smiled in satisfaction. Once I break the seal, this cloud of innate ferocious chi will be enough to upgrade my infallible tormented physique to its complete form. Of course, that was not Chu Kuangren's main purpose for coming here. His spiritual thought covered every corner of the palace, searching for the white-robed general's whereabouts. He found 2 places with restrictions, and if the white-robed general was really in this palace, he would be in one of them. He brought Lan Yu to the location of the first restriction, but he did not find the white-robed general. Instead, he found a black altar. There were 4 stone pillars on top of the black altar, and each of them was filled with an incredibly dense innate ferocious chi. The total amount of innate ferocious chi on these 4 stone pillars was a few times denser than the one he obtained from Blood Fury Sage Ruler. If tormented souls obtain innate ferocious chi, they will devour it immediately instead of keeping it. Why would they set up an altar like this? Then who did this? Chu Kuangren's heart skipped a beat. He recalled that one of the tormented souls he met previously mentioned that there was a living person in the ancient battlefield. That person even addressed him as that lord? Could this be the work of that lord? That lord? TSK, who cares who it is? Since there's something good in front of me, I might as well take it. Chu Kuangren curled his lips and kept the entire altar into his yin and yang ring. After that, he went to another place with restrictions. A few hundred feet underground. In one of the cells, a white-robed man was tied up by several pitch-black chains. On his back, there were 2 spikes that looked like straws that were pierced into his spine. The other end of the spikes was connected to a giant bottle. Surges of black innate ferocious chi were continuously extracted from the white-robed man's body and injected into that bottle. That person was the white-robed general that Chu Kuangren was looking for. Chapter 458. TSK, this is the white-robed general, one of the 3 kings of the ancient battlefield. But now, he's locked up here like a dog. Outside the cell, a tormented soul was giggling while playing with a mask in his hand. It was the mask that belonged to the white-robed general. However, it was now being played with by a tormented soul. Inside the cell, the white-robed general was silent. His long black hair was draped over his shoulders, covering half of his face. No one could see his true appearance. His aura was very weak as the innate ferocious chi in his body was constantly being extracted. The process was not very painful, but it was very long. Furthermore, his consciousness would gradually disappear. It was as if a person's blood had been completely drained. The innate ferocious chi was equivalent to his blood. The white-robed general was a half-human, half-tormented soul existence. It was not an easy task to extract the innate ferocious chi from his body. If it was an ordinary tormented soul, the innate ferocious chi could be extracted immediately after killing them. However, this was not the case for the white-robed general. The innate ferocious chi was closely intertwined with his dead body. Even if he was killed, the innate ferocious chi could not be extracted. The only way was to gradually extract the innate ferocious chi from his body using a method similar to drawing blood. TSK, looking at him, I don't think he can hold on much longer. Master Daoist Sha is really amazing to be able to think of such a method to extract his innate ferocious chi. One of the tormented souls laughed. Hey, some of the adventurers that I've killed in the past mentioned you. They said that you were an ancient general who led an army of millions. It must be very impressive, right? Why don't you tell us about your glorious achievements? One of the tormented souls said playfully. However, the white-robed general did not respond to the tormented soul's teasing. He remained kneeling on the ground like a statue. The tormented souls were already used to it. For so many days, ever since he was captured, he had been quiet and uncommunicative. They teased him because they were bored. Especially since the target of their teasing was the famous white-robed general of the ancient battlefield, they were never tired of it. Some people would always feel an inexplicable sense of excitement when they saw a high and mighty figure fall from the clouds. This was especially so when they could humiliate the other party as they pleased without fear of revenge. Even for the tormented souls, this deep-rooted bad habit was difficult to get rid of. Creak, at this moment, the chains rattled. The white-robed general suddenly raised his head and looked outside the dungeon. His eyes, hidden by his black hair, shone with a strange light. Why is there movement today? The tormented soul looked at the white-robed general in surprise. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps rang out. Two figures slowly walked into the dungeon. Following their arrival, the originally dark dungeon fell into a strange silence. All the tormented souls looked at the two of them with their mouths agape. One had to know that this was the dungeon of the Blood Fiend Palace, and the one guarding it was the Blood Fiend Holy Ruler, one of the three kings of the ancient battlefield. How did the two of them get down? It's so dark, it's so uncomfortable. Chu Kuangren snapped his fingers. Several flame runes condensed and illuminated the surroundings. Who are you? Damn it, how did you get down here? The tormented souls around him immediately went on high alert. However, Chu Kuangren ignored them. With a lift of his hand, dozens of runic swords were formed. In just a few breaths' time, the dozen or so tormented souls were completely annihilated by the runic swords. Not a single one was spared. Senior, you look like you're in a sorry state. Chu Kuangren came to the front of the cage and teased. The white-robed general chuckled. I didn't expect you to find this place so quickly. It seems like your growth over the past few years has far exceeded my expectations. Where's the Blood Fiend Holy Ruler? Oh, he's dead. Chu Kuangren said nonchalantly. He casually broke open the cage and cut off the few chains that bound the white-robed general. Then, he looked at the iron spike on the white-robed general's back and said in amazement, it shouldn't be a problem for me to pull this thing out, right? No problem. As soon as the white-robed general finished speaking, Chu Kuangren immediately used his mind power to pull the iron spike out. The iron spike that pierced through the white-robed general's spine was instantly pulled out. He could not help but gasp as his mouth twitched. Oh, Senior, you can still feel pain. I may be considered a living dead, but I'm not completely dead yet. All right then. Chu Kuangren did not mind and kept the bottle filled with innate ferocious qi into his yin and yang ring. The weakened white-robed general walked out of the dungeon, picked up the mask on the ground, and put it back on. Chu Kuangren had a good look at the white-robed general's face. It was a very delicate face that did not look like a general who had conquered the battlefield at all. Let's go. Chu Kuangren said and left the dungeon with his people. Not long after Chu Kuangren and his people left, a large group of people returned to the palace. Among them was one of the ancient battlefield's three kings, giant tormented sage ruler. The leader was a young man in black armor. His face was filled with killing intent, but there was a hint of excitement on his face at the moment. I've finally collected enough innate ferocious qi. Now I can raise my innate ferocious foundation level to its peak. When I ascend to become a sage, my foundation level will at least be a 5th tier sage, and I'll be the innate ferocious sage who specializes in combat. The black-armored young man, Daoist Sha, murmured. Wait a minute, something's not right. Suddenly, giant tormented sage ruler noticed that something was wrong. In the past, there were tormented souls patrolling around the Blood Fiend Palace, but it was eerily quiet today. Where's everyone? And why isn't Blood Fiend Sage Ruler coming out to welcome us? Quick, let's go in and have a look. Giant tormented Sage Ruler hurriedly led his people into the palace. However, they did not see a single tormented soul along the way. Moreover, the palace was filled with signs of battle. It was obvious that a fierce battle had taken place here. Who was it? Who could fight against the Blood Fiend Sage Ruler to such an extent? Not good. The black-armored young man's expression changed as he thought of something. He rushed into the palace and arrived at the place where the altar was placed. However, he found that it was already empty. His face was a mix of green and red, his chest was heaving up and down, and his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Find it. Find me the innate ferocious altar. Giant tormented sage ruler and the others walked up to him. It's not just the innate ferocious altar. The white-robed general has disappeared too. There's no trace of the Blood Fiend Sage Ruler at the scene, so I'm guessing that he's probably dead. As far as I know, No tormented soul in the ancient battlefield has such abilities. Who could it be? Giant tormented sage ruler said with an ugly expression. No matter who it is, I'll tear them to pieces for daring to touch my innate ferocious altar. The black-armored young man gritted his teeth and said. The innate ferocious altar had taken him 3 whole years to build. It contained all of the innate ferocious chi that he had collected over the past 3 years. It was an important means for him to improve his foundation and ascend into a sage. Yet now, it had been taken away by someone else. How could he accept that this was related to one's foundation and ascension into a sage? 3 years. 3 whole years. He did not have the time to spend another 3 years planning. In a battle of the Emperor's path, one step behind would always mean falling behind. Now that Xiao Jingqian has ascended into a sage, I can't afford to hesitate any longer. I must ascend into a sage as soon as possible. The innate ferocious altar cannot be lost. Send out the order to seal off the entire ancient battlefield. Find the altar. Yes. As the orders were passed down, all the tormented souls who had gained sentience in the ancient battlefield swarmed out and searched for Chu Kuangren and the others. Chapter 459. Somewhere in the ancient battlefield. Chu Kuangren brought the white-robed general into a cave. Along the way, they encountered many tormented souls. All of them were sent by Taoist Sha and giant tormented sage king to chase after them. They were all taken care of by Chu Kuangren. I need to think of a way to remove this restriction of yours first. Chu Kuangren looked at the white-robed general in front of him and said. The baleful aura on the other party's body was connected to the earthen chi of the ancient battlefield. It was like an invisible shackle that firmly trapped the other party in the ancient battlefield. If he wanted to leave, he had to first undo the restrictions on the white-robed general. The restriction of the ancient battlefield has existed for a very long time. No one has ever been able to break it. Why don't you leave first? The white-robed general said. He did not want to implicate Chu Kuangren and Xiao Yu because of him. Since you're already here, how can you just leave like this? Don't you want to see the offspring of you and the princess with your own eyes? Hearing this, a glimmer of hope appeared in the white-robed general's eyes. He then bitterly smiled. I want to, but it's useless. Even if I can leave the ancient battlefield, my body is heavily injured and my killing intent is constantly leaking out. I probably won't be able to live for long. I'll think of something after we get out. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Things had to be dealt with one by one, so the first thing he needed to do now was to remove the ancient battlefield's restrictions for White-Robe General. He pondered. The core area of the ancient battlefield was formed by countless saints fighting in a formation over tens of thousands of years. The earth energy here was special, and it was very likely that it had something to do with that formation. A formation? I wonder if this rune is useful. Chu Kuangren muttered as he activated his spiritual thought. The spiritual power around him converged and formed a mysterious rune on his palm. A strange wave of energy rippled out. He placed the runes on the white-robed general's body. Rune of Destruction. This was a sacred rune recorded in the Mystic Origin Imperial Scripture. It was used to counteract negative influences from the outside world. This talisman was extremely mysterious, but it was unclear what it was used for. Chu Kuangren did not know what the rune was used for, but he could only give it a try since the white-robed general was in such a situation. After a while, the white-robed general's body suddenly shook. He said in surprise, I feel like the ancient battlefield's restriction on me is weakening. Oh, it works. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. He raised his hand and condensed another destruction talisman. Gradually, the white-robed general sensed that the ancient battlefield's restraints on him were almost non-existent. He felt indescribably relaxed. Just as the white-robed general was released from his restraints, Taoist Sha, giant tormented sage king, and the others had already set up an inescapable trap outside the cave. This was the ancient battlefield's core area, the turf of the tormented souls. As long as they searched carefully, it would not be difficult for them to locate Chu Kuangren. How dare you take away the innate ferocious sacrificial altar? I'll teach you a lesson. Looking at the cave, Daoist Shah's eyes flickered with coldness. Inside the cave. As Chu Kuangren untied White-Robed General, he listened to him talk about the changes that had taken place in the ancient battlefield over the past few years. As it turned out, 3 years ago, a Daoist Shah suddenly appeared in the ancient battlefield. He used his powerful strength to conquer the entire ancient battlefield's core zone. He subdued Giant Torment Sage King and Blood Fury Sage King and made them work for him. For the past 3 years, Daoist Shah had been collecting innate ferocious qi to build an innate ferocious sacrificial altar. He wanted to use it to improve his foundation. As one of the 3 kings, the White-Robed General had a large amount of innate ferocious qi on him. Since he did not submit to Daoist Shah, he became their primary target. Although the White-Robed General had narrowly escaped death several times with his cultivation as a saint ruler, he was still captured a few months ago. That was how Chu Kuangren broke into the palace to rescue him. Daoist Shah. This name sounds familiar. Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin and said, Master, the 9 Heavens Sky Pride ranked 6th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard is this Daoist Shah. At that moment, Lan Yu reminded him. They had been to the Divine Predictor Pavilion and seen the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. Although they did not deliberately memorize the names on it, they still had some impression of it. No wonder he could conquer the entire ancient battlefield. He's a top-notch Sky Pride from the 9 Heavens, Chu Kuangren murmured. His interest was piqued as he looked outside the cave. This is my first time dealing with someone from the 9 Heavens. I wonder how strong he is. He's very strong. Most sage rulers are no match for him. The White-Robed General said in a serious tone, coupled with Giant Tormented Sage King and the other tormented souls, this battle will be very difficult. He stood up and looked outside the cave. He could already feel the tormented souls gathering outside. Do you have any weapons? The White-Robed General asked. Apart from this mask, everything else that he had on him had been taken away, including his old weapons. You're a spear user, right? That's great. I killed Blood Fury Sage Ruler and he dropped one. Chu Kuangren took out the blood-colored spear that Blood Fury Sage Ruler used. It was a top-notch Sage Ruler weapon. Thank you. The White-Robed General took the spear. The moment he held it, a familiar cold ferocious qi swept out from his body. Although he was extremely weak, he was still the same invincible White-Robed General who dominated the battlefield with a spear in his hand. Lan Yu, keep an eye on him. Chu Kuangren said to Lan Yu. No matter how fierce the White-Robed General's aura was, it could not hide the fact that he was heavily injured. He did not want to be the one collecting his opponent's corpse. The 3 of them walked out of the cave. What awaited them was a dense horde of tormented army. The leader of the tormented army was clad in black armor. His pitch-black eyes stared at Chu Kuangren with a cold murderous intent. Chu Kuangren was also looking at him with his eye of revelation activated. Daoist Shah, from the tormented tribe, an ancient orthodoxy of the 9 Heavens. His physique is the infallible tormented physique. He cultivates the innate ferocious emperor scripture and is an honorable supreme. Chu Kuangren was quite surprised. He did not expect his opponent to also have the infallible tormented physique and cultivate an emperor scripture that was related to ferocious qi. No wonder he could improve his foundation by absorbing innate ferocious qi. Thief, hand over the innate ferocious altar, and I'll grant you a quick death, Daoist Shah said coldly. However, what greeted him was the thousands of runic swords that Chu Kuangren formed with a raise of his hand. The runic sword qi poured out like a torrent and wreaked havoc between the heavens and the earth. Even the sage-level tormented army could not withstand such power. The thousands of runic swords tore open a huge gap in the tormented army that numbered in the tens of thousands. The unparalleled power made the tormented army's pupils dilate. No wonder Blood Fury Sage Ruler was defeated by him. This person's combat strength is no weaker than a sage ruler's. Giant Tormented Sage Ruler and the others looked extremely solemn, especially Giant Tormented Sage Ruler, who recognized Chu Kuangren the moment he saw him. Chu Kuangren had come to the ancient battlefield a few years ago, but he could not even withstand a single finger of his. However, he could now kill a sage ruler. Chu Kuangren's speed of improvement shocked him. "Let's go," Chu Kuangren said. He took a step forward and countless runic swords shuttled back and forth around him, killing every tormented soul that got close to him. The white-robed general and Lan Yu followed closely behind. Lan Yu immediately opened the black barrier to block all the tormented souls' attacks, allowing Chu Kuangren to focus on opening a path with his runic sword Qi. Chapter 460. The runic sword Qi shuttled back and forth among the tormented souls. One by one, the tormented souls were easily killed and pulverized. None of them could get within 3 feet of Chu Kuangren, and none of them could break through the black gauze barrier. Heavenly Ferocious Dharma Idol, form. At this moment, a terrifying murderous aura surged between heaven and earth. This ferocious aura was surging and turned into a heaven ferocious avatar that was 100 feet tall. It was the avatar that Taoist Sha had conjured. This avatar is even more powerful than the divine ferocious avatar that Chu Kuangren conjured 3 years ago. Its terrifying aura is earth-shattering. Is this the absolute ferocious Dharma form? Furthermore, he has cultivated the Heaven Fiend Imperial Sutra. Interesting. Although it was stronger than his divine ferocious avatar, Chu Kuangren did not really care. After all, the infallible tormented physique was just one of his many techniques. It would not affect him much even if he gave up on it. Stay here. Taoist Sha let out a furious roar as he activated his heavenly ferocious Dharma idol and punched out with all his might. A huge stretch of the void shook like waves in the sea. Chu Kuangren condensed lines of sage-grade runes and combined them with his own sword-based Taoist rhyme, turning them into an incredibly powerful giant sword that slashed out. There was a loud explosion, and the terrifying impact sent all the tormented souls in the surroundings flying. Even giant tormented sage ruler could not help but fall back a few feet. What a terrifying rune energy! Taoist Sha was blasted a few hundred meters away by the impact of the runic energy and crashed into a mountain peak. He looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. The other party had the protection of the black veil, and the impact was disintegrated bit by bit. Seeing this, Taoist Sha took out a palm-sized bell made of an unknown material. Terrifying Taoist rhymes circulated around the bell. To be able to make me use the heavenly fiend bell, you should be honored. Taoist Sha grunted coldly and was about to make his move. However, at that moment, Chu Kuangren suddenly pointed towards the sky from afar. What did that mean? Taoist Sha was confused. Then, he looked up into the sky, and his pupils shrank. A gigantic silver-white rune enveloped the entire tormented army, and like a meteor crashing into the ground, it smashed into the army. The surrounding space seemed to have turned into a quagmire, making it difficult for everyone to move. Even Taoist Sha could feel waves of pressure. These are spatial runes. He can actually condense spatial runes of this scale. Taoist Sha was astonished. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren had used the spatial solidification rune to imprison the tormented soul. He did not stay for long and quickly left with Lan Yu and White Robe General. Although the effect of the congeal talisman was strong, Taoist Sha wasn't completely confined. He was still able to fight under the effect of the congeal talisman. Moreover, his opponent had a powerful weapon in his hand. A prolonged battle wouldn't be beneficial. He decided to leave with the white-robed general first. You want to leave? Dream on. Taoist Sha activated his heavenly ferocious Dharma idol and broke free from the restraints of the Ning talisman. However, just as he was about to give chase, dozens of talisman swords flew over from the horizon. Each of these runic swords possessed the strength to kill a sage. Even Taoist Sha had to focus and defend against them. By then, Chu Kuangren and the others had already left. When the effect of the freeze talisman wore off, everyone had already disappeared. Taoist Sha was furious. Chase them. He roared and led the tormented souls to give chase. However, after a few hundred meters, mysterious runes suddenly appeared in the void and transformed into lightning, wind, frost, and fire rocks. All sorts of natural energies filled the air and crashed into the tormented army. Although the power of these runes was not as strong as the runic swords that Chu Kuangren had condensed, their power was not to be underestimated. Moreover, there were so many of them that the tormented army was thrown into confusion and many of them were injured. D*Amenit. D*Amenit. Daoist Sha was so angry that his mouth twitched. Master Daoist Sha, we don't know how many more rune traps that guy has set along the way. I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up to him. Giant tormented sage ruler sighed helplessly. Daoist Sha stared ahead coldly, but he knew that what giant tormented sage ruler said made sense. They might not be able to catch up to him anymore. However, the innate ferocious altar was the key to improving his foundation. And now it was gone. Even without the innate ferocious altar, I must become a sage as soon as possible. I can't fall behind Xiao Jingchen by too much. Now that things have come to this, that's the only way. Daoist Sha's eyes revealed a hint of ruthlessness. Don't worry, Master Daoist. We can find more innate ferocious qi. We're willing to go through fire and water for Master Daoist. Giant tormented sage ruler took the opportunity to express his loyalty. He knew that Daoist Sha came from an extremely powerful force. If he could befriend Daoist Sha, he might even have a chance to leave this ancient battlefield and follow Daoist Sha to a wider world. Is that so? I'm very pleased that you're so loyal. If that's the case, are you willing to die for me? Daoist Sha said indifferently. Giant tormented sage ruler and the others were shocked when they heard that. They could not figure out what Daoist Sha meant. However, at that moment, Daoist Sha took out the black bell and activated it with his spiritual power. The bell expanded with the wind and became extremely huge. Following that, a series of bell chimes erupted from the bell. Terrifying ferocious qi swept in all directions and attacked the tormented souls. Even a powerhouse like giant tormented sage ruler could not help but feel his body cracking under the ringing of the bell. Master Daoist Sha, what are you doing? The tormented souls were extremely terrified. Didn't you say that you're willing to go through fire and water for me? Since the innate ferocious altar is gone, I'll have to use your ferocious qi to improve my foundation. What's wrong? Are you going to go back on your words? Daoist Sha did not hold back as he activated the bell with all his might. The sonorous sound waves mixed with ferocious qi spread out, crushing the tormented souls one by one. Even giant tormented sage ruler was no exception. They wanted to escape, but they could not escape from the range of the sonorous sound waves. Not long after, all the tormented souls were dead, leaving only surges of innate ferocious qi where they stood. Daoist Sha absorbed the innate ferocious qi into his body, but he did not look happy at all. This level of innate ferocious qi is far inferior to the innate ferocious altar, but this is the best I can do. D*Amenit. Thief, once I become a sage, I'll find out who you are and cut you into 1,000 pieces. There was no one else in the entire firmament star who was as proficient in runes as Chu Kuangren. He believed that he could find out who he was if he asked around. When that time came, he would definitely make him pay. Far away. Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu, and the white-robed general had successfully walked out of the ancient battlefield's core area. On top of the elusive mirage, Chu Kuangren opened his eyes. This Daoist Sha is quite ruthless. His spiritual thought had just returned from the ancient battlefield, and he had witnessed the scene of Daoist Sha slaughtering the tormented souls. Of course, he had also heard that Daoist Sha wanted to seek revenge on him. However, he did not care much about that. Revenge? There were countless people in this world who wanted his life and revenge. It did not matter if Daoist Sha was dead or alive. Next, I should think of a way to heal the white-robed general's injuries. Besides, the seal within my body is about to be released, Chu Kuangren murmured. Chapter 461. Inside the elusive mirage, Chu Kuangren was observing the white-robed general's injuries. Even though he had broken free, the ferocious qi on his body was still fading away. Although the speed was much slower, it was still fading away. White-robed general, one of the ancient battlefield's three kings, Chu Kuangren used his eye of revelation to check on the white-robed general's condition. His internal foundation has been damaged, and his innate ferocious qi is fading away. His physical body is slowly fading away. If there's no remedy, he'll probably die in 7 days. The information from the eye of revelation made Chu Kuangren frown. 7 days. The white-robed general only had 7 days left to live. What should he do? Chu Kuangren pondered. Fellow Taoist Chu, I know my situation best. Before I die, I would like to see my descendants. Is that possible? The white-robed general said calmly. It was as if he did not care about his impending death. To him, he was already a dead man. It was the princess of the Lu kingdom who used a secret technique to prolong his life, allowing him to live on in this world. His only wish now was to see his descendants. They were his and her descendants. It's not that you can't see them, but I don't think it's a good idea for you to meet them in this state. Chu Kuangren laughed. I'll just take a look at them. Stop teasing me. We'll talk about it when my body recovers. My body is like a candle in the wind. There's no way I can save it, the white-robed general said with a bitter smile. If I say you can, then you can. Chu Kuangren said calmly. He then took out a black altar with surges of innate ferocious qi circling around it. Let's take a gamble. This innate ferocious altar was used by Taoist Sha to improve his foundation, and it just so happened that your foundation was destroyed. Perhaps this item will be useful to you. No matter how bad the situation is, it won't be worse than now. Chu Kuangren said. The white-robed general hesitated for a while. He looked at the innate ferocious altar and took a deep breath. All right, let's give it a try. He was a decisive general. Since he had decided to give it a try, he immediately got up and walked towards the innate ferocious altar. The 4 black stone pillars on the altar seemed to have sensed something. They trembled and emitted a faint black light. Then, the innate ferocious qi within the altar gushed towards the white-robed general and seeped into his limbs. Even the white-robed general couldn't help but groan in pain. Innumerable amounts of innate ferocious qi tunneled into his body, transforming his body and reshaping his foundation. This method of transformation was extremely barbaric, and the white-robed general did not know how to control it. He could only let the innate ferocious qi run amok in his body like wild horses, wreaking havoc everywhere. Do I need to stop? Chu Kuangren asked calmly. He was already prepared to use his mind power to pull his opponent down from the altar. The white-robed general extended his hand and said, There's no need for that. Although this innate ferocious energy is violent, it's useful. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation. White-robed general, recovering foundation. Modifying constitution. Current progress, 1%, looks like my luck is pretty good. I made the right bet. Chu Kuangren smiled. From the looks of it, it would take at least half a month for the white-robed general to completely recover. In other words, he would have to endure the pain of being transformed for half a month. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to endure it. However, when Chu Kuangren saw the determined look on the white-robed general's face, he knew that time was not an issue at all. The white-robed general's willpower was not something an ordinary cultivator could compare to. I hope that when we meet again in half a month, you'll be reborn. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Then, he activated the elusive mirage's defensive force field and set up several runic seals to hide the entire elusive mirage in the void. Next, I'll enter the final stage of unsealing. Chu Kuangren murmured. He handed the elusive mirage over to Lan Yu and walked into one of the lofts within the elusive mirage. He then went into closed-door meditation to prepare to unseal it. During this period, the firmament star was extremely lively. Ever since Xiao Jingchen became a sage, the sky prides of the 9 heavens began to ascend one by one as if they had an agreement. Moreover, the commotion caused by their ascension was not small at all. Everyone's ascension into a sage was extremely powerful. There were even 2 7-colored heavenly tribulations like Xiao Jingchen that shocked half of the firmament star. Those 2 were Wang Tianteng, who was ranked 4th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, and Zhan Hongying, who had returned to 2nd place after becoming a sage. Both of them were rare sky prides throughout history. Most of their ascension into sages were 7-colored heavenly tribulations, which was no weaker than Xiao Jingchen's. Besides those 3, there were a few other sky prides whose ascension into sages also received a lot of attention. Among them, Daoist Sha, who was ranked 6th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, ascended into a sage using ferocious qi in the ancient battlefield. Although his heavenly tribulations were not 7-colored heavenly tribulations, they were not any weaker than the latter. There were also some boundary sages who had already ascended into the sage realm. Not to be outdone, they also used various opportunities of fortune to break through to the sage realm. As more and more sky prides and sages appeared, the older generation of sages were reduced to mere foils. They were used as tools for the sky prides to challenge and make a name for themselves. Today, another hot topic appeared on the firmament star. The heavenly golden palace. A loud voice suddenly erupted from a mountain peak. I, Xiao Jingchen, wish to challenge Chu Kuangren to a duel at the Sky Razor Mountain in 3 days. I hope Chu Kuangren will be punctual. The cultivators who heard the voice were shocked and quickly spread the news. Soon, everyone in the firmament star knew about it. Everyone was shocked. Xiao Jingchen wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren. He wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren, who had single-handedly destroyed the craggy ocean tower. This battle attracted the attention of many great ones. Xiao Jingchen's heavenly golden imperial physique is many times stronger than Xiao Lingtian's. Moreover, he has ascended into a sage through the 7-colored heavenly tribulations. Perhaps he might stand a chance against Chu Kuangren. That's right. Since Chu Kuangren has been sealed by the heavenly punishment seal, he can only use his runic techniques. It seems like Xiao Jingchen still has a high chance of winning. Interesting, what about Chu Kuangren? What's his response? Just when everyone was excited about Xiao Jingchen's challenge to Chu Kuangren, another sky pride spoke. This time, it was Daoist Sha from the ancient battlefield. Similarly, he also wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren. Everyone was extremely shocked. It was understandable for Xiao Jingchen to challenge Chu Kuangren. After all, he was an ancient sky pride from the Heavenly Golden Palace, and the Heavenly Golden Palace had a deep grudge against Chu Kuangren. Hence, it was reasonable for him to challenge Chu Kuangren. Why did Daoist Sha want to challenge Chu Kuangren? Inside the ancient battlefield, Daoist Sha sat in one of the palaces with deep hatred in his eyes. Compared to Xiao Jingchen, he hated Chu Kuangren even more. He had investigated and found out that it was Chu Kuangren who had stolen the innate ferocious altar, causing his foundation level to be unable to reach its peak. Initially, he had the chance to establish a 7th grade sage foundation level. However, because of Chu Kuangren, he only managed to achieve a 5th grade sage foundation level. Although they were only 2 grades apart, their potential, talent, and strength were worlds apart. How could Daoist Sha not hate Chu Kuangren? He hated him to the core. He could not wait to skin Chu Kuangren alive and eat him alive. Chapter 462. News of Xiao Jingchen and Daoist Sha challenging Chu Kuangren had spread throughout the entire firmament star, and every cultivator was paying close attention to this matter. Everyone was also waiting for Chu Kuangren's response. However, for 3 consecutive days, even after the time limit for the battle had passed, there was still no response from Chu Kuangren, let alone any sign of him. All the great ones were looking for Chu Kuangren. Their spiritual thoughts scanned the entire firmament star but to no avail. With Chu Kuangren's abilities, it was too easy for him to hide. As long as he willed it, no one could find him. Hide. This statement caused all the cultivators to be extremely shocked. Chu Kuangren knew how to hide. Oh God! What the hell? That was Chu Kuangren, the #1 lunatic in history. How could a lunatic like him know how to hide? Most of them believed that he was delayed by something. However, the heavenly Golden Palace disciples did not think so. To them, Chu Kuangren was afraid of Xiao Jingchen and did not dare to show up. Chu Kuangren. That's all he's got. Ha, he can only hide in his shell in front of the young master. Chu Kuangren was terrifying. This was something that everyone acknowledged. Even the people from the heavenly Golden Palace knew about it. That was also the reason why they were so frustrated by Chu Kuangren. Now, they finally had a chance to turn the tables. It did not matter why Chu Kuangren did not show up. What was important was that Xiao Jingchen had challenged Chu Kuangren, and he did not show up. That was enough for them to show off. Under the heavenly Golden Palace's propaganda, Chu Kuangren became a coward who did not dare to show up because he was afraid of Xiao Jingchen. His reputation as a madman was ruined. It was not just the heavenly Golden Palace. The disciples of Ethereal Rapture, Acheron Manor, Sacred Palace of Death, and the Bottomless Chasm who had a grudge against Chu Kuangren were also using this opportunity to belittle Chu Kuangren and ruin his reputation. What Chu Kuangren? He's just a coward who doesn't even dare to accept a challenge. It seems like he's really fallen. That's right. It's the era of Xiao Jingchen and the others now. #1 on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. What a joke. The few orthodoxy's disciples continued to slander Chu Kuangren. At first, there were some who didn't believe it. However, the slanderous voices grew louder and louder. Chu Kuangren did not appear at all, nor did he respond. It was as if he had really gone into hiding, as the others had said. As time passed, those who believed in Chu Kuangren gradually wavered. Could it be that Chu Kuangren was truly afraid? It was no wonder. After all, Xiao Jingchen's Sage Ascension tribulation was earth-shattering, and Chu Kuangren himself had been struck by the heavenly punishment seal. It was very likely that he would not be a match for Xiao Jingchen. It made sense that the other party did not dare to fight. As time went by, Chu Kuangren seemed to have solidified his reputation as a coward. The title of Kuangren is extremely disappointing. The heavenly Golden Palace's Xiao Jingchen spread the news that Chu Kuangren had failed to keep his appointment, causing his reputation to rise once again. Compared to Xiao Jingchen, Daoist Sha's reaction was much more intense. He immediately declared that if Chu Kuangren did not show up, he would kill his way into the Black Heaven sect and slaughter the entire sect. 2 days after the announcement, there was still no response. Chu Kuangren, if that's the case, then don't blame me for this. Inside the ancient battlefield, Daoist Sha snorted and leaped into the sky. Not long after, he appeared outside the Black Heaven sect's great formation. Many people in the firmament star had noticed his actions. They knew that he was here to cause trouble for the Black Heaven sect today. This Daoist Sha really is a man of his word. He said he would destroy the Black Heaven sect, and he did it just like that. I wonder if he can break the formation. I don't think so. This formation is not that easy to break. The crowd discussed and paid attention to Daoist Sha. At that moment, Daoist Sha was standing outside the astonishing cloud of seas formation with ferocious chi swirling around his body. He looked like a demon that had just walked out of a Shura battlefield. You think you can stop me with a mere formation? What a joke! Daoist Sha dashed into the astonishing cloud of seas formation. The astonishing cloud of seas formation blocked everyone's spiritual thoughts, so they could barely sense the powerful energy fluctuations coming from within. After a day and a night, Daoist Sha walked out of the great formation with a gloomy expression. His aura was weak, and his hair was messy. Although he did not suffer any obvious injuries, he still looked like a mess. Behind him, the astonishing cloud of seas formation was still operating. Evidently, he had failed to break the formation. The crowd fell silent. Although they were surprised by the result, they felt that it was reasonable. After all, this great formation had killed countless enemies 3 years ago. It was known as the number 1 formation in Firmament Star. Even a sage ruler would not dare to enter it. Taoist Sha's failure did not shock them too much. D*MN. I can't believe that the Black Heaven sect has such a formation. Countless formations are interconnected and impossible to defend against. And that Cloud Dragon's combat strength is on par with mine. If I didn't use the innate ferocious bell at the end, I wouldn't have been able to walk out of this formation unscathed. Taoist Sha turned to look at the astonishing Cloud of Seas formation behind him with a complicated look in his eyes. Even in the 9 heavens, it's rare to see a formation like this. Where did Chu Kuangren get it from? D*MN. This formation is too difficult to break. I'll have to think of another way. News of Taoist Sha's failure to break the formation had many people laughing in their hearts. They felt that Taoist Sha had been slapped in the face. However, what Taoist Sha did next shocked everyone even more. After failing to break the formation, Taoist Sha did not give up on his plan to force Chu Kuangren out. Instead, he changed his strategy. He used his powerful strength to subdue a few orthodoxies and then asked them to find some people for him. Those people were all Black Heaven sect disciples. To be more precise, they were former disciples of the Black Heaven sect. Back then, when the Black Heaven sect was besieged by many forces, no one thought that the Black Heaven sect could turn the tide. Hence, many disciples left the Black Heaven sect and joined other forces. Yet now, Taoist Sha had captured those people. He had announced. For every day that Chu Kuangren did not show up, he would kill 1,000 people. Such an insane act shocked every cultivator in the Firmament Star. Just how much hatred did this person have for Chu Kuangren? On the first day, Chu Kuangren did not show up. In the ancient battlefield, 1,000 heads fell to the ground. On the second day, Chu Kuangren still did not show up. Taoist Sha burned 1,000 people to death. Far away in the astonishing Cloud of Seas formation, the Black Heaven sect naturally received the news and was furious at Taoist Sha's actions. D*MN. This Taoist Sha is worse than a beast. No matter what, those people were once disciples of the Black Heaven sect. Although they have nothing to do with us now, Taoist Sha's actions are undoubtedly a provocation to the Black Heaven sect and the sect leader. Elder Ruyan, what should we do? Inside the Longevity Hall, the elders gathered together. Elder Ruyan took a deep breath and said calmly, "Let's wait and see. Let's wait for the sect leader to show up." One of the elders hesitated. "Those disciples, what disciple?" Elder Ruyan replied with a question. The elders fell silent. They have nothing to do with the Black Heaven sect anymore. I don't blame them for leaving back then, but at the same time, there's no need for us to put ourselves in danger for them, Elder Ruyan said. No one blamed her for being ruthless. After all, she did it to protect the Black Heaven sect. Understood. Then let's wait for the sect leader to show up. Chapter 463. The news of Taoist Sha massacring the Black Heaven sect's former disciples had spread like wildfire in the Firmament Star. Countless people were watching. No one stood up to accuse him, and no one dared to. On the contrary, orthodoxies like the Heavenly Golden Palace who had a grudge against Chu Kuangren were more than happy to see that happen. Hence, they worked even harder to slander Chu Kuangren. This Chu Kuangren is really cold-blooded. No matter what, these people used to be disciples of the Black Heaven sect, and yet he didn't do anything about it. TSK, he's willing to sacrifice his disciples' lives just to protect himself. So this is the Black Heaven sect leader. How disgusting. The voices of slander increased day by day. Meanwhile, in the ancient battlefield, Sha Lingzi looked at the rising sun from afar and grinned. He then looked at the terrified cultivators behind him and said, "Your sect leader still hasn't shown up today, so all of you must die." Why? We're no longer disciples of the Black Heaven sect. Chu Kuangren has no reason to fight for us. It's useless even if you kill us all, one of the cultivators said loudly. It doesn't matter if it works or not, I still have to try. Taoist Sha said calmly. He then raised his hand to gather the ferocious chi of heaven and earth and was about to kill another 1,000 people. However, a sword ray flashed past. The sword ray was extremely bright, and it carried an incredibly sharp aura as it ruthlessly slashed towards Taoist Sha's arm. The sword ray flashed past, but Taoist Sha's arm trembled. The sword ray landed on his arm, but it did not hurt him at all. Oh, someone's here to die. It was 2 young sword-wielding men. Taoist Sha revealed a playful look when he saw them. 49th and 51st on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, Murong Xian and Nangong Huang. I can't believe that you two are here to die before Chu Kuangren. It's hard to say who will win. Nangong Huang said calmly. An incredibly powerful aura erupted from his body, and a majestic sage's aura swept out like a tidal wave. Beside him, Murong Xian also released his aura. Oh, you've become a sage. No wonder you dare to come after me. But do you think you're a match for me just because you're a sage? You've overestimated yourself. Taoist Sha sneered. The sage's aura was several times stronger than Murong Xian and Nangong Huang. The tyrannical aura directly suppressed them. The top 10 geniuses are indeed extraordinary. Nangong Huang said solemnly. He had long known that the 2 of them would not be a match for him. However, they had no choice but to come. Now, the entire firmament star was looking at Chu Kuangren and the Black Heaven sect as a joke. The voices of slandering and questioning increased day by day. This time, they did not stand out to save people. It was to protect the reputation of the orthodoxy. Attack! Nangong Huang shouted in a low voice. Yin and yang divine light flowed in his eyes, resonating with the holy sword in his hand. His combat power was raised to its peak. When the sword slashed out, the sword chi merged with the yin-yang divine light. It was incomparably powerful. Murong Xian had also gone all out. Large amounts of sword chi gushed out of his body and condensed in the void, turning into many fiery red suns. 9 suns in the same sky. Kill! The 9 suns formed a line and suddenly slashed out. Taoist Sha revealed a look of disdain towards the 2 completely different sword chi Taoist rhymes. You guys are too weak. Saying so, he raised his hand and activated his killing intent. A horrifying divine ferocious avatar instantly formed. The divine ferocious avatar unleashed a punch, and its majestic ferocious chi gushed out like a tidal wave, shattering the combined sword chi of the 2 in an instant. Nangong Huang and Murong Xian were forced back hundreds of meters by the terrifying impact. Their sage bodies suffered from the impact, and they could not help but spit out blood. In the past few years, they had improved by leaps and bounds. They had even ascended to become sages, and their foundations were strong enough to rival veteran sages. However, compared to sky prides like Taoist Sha who came from the 9 heavens and inherited ancient orthodoxies, there was still a huge gap. You guys think you can fight me? What a joke. Oh well, let's see if Chu Kuangren will come out after I kill you guys. Taoist Sha activated the divine ferocious avatar. At that moment, Nangong Huang took out an item. It was a magnificent scroll. The scroll soared into the sky and revealed a scene of mountains and rivers. One after another, bestial soul beasts rushed out and bit at Taoist Sha. That's the craggy ocean tower's mountain sea scroll. I can't believe it's in their hands. The sages who were watching the battle were extremely shocked. The mountain sea scroll was the boundary emperor weapon of the craggy ocean tower. After the battle 3 years ago, it was taken by the Black Heaven sect. When Nangong Huang and the others descended into the world, Elder Ruyan gave it to them. With the help of this item, Nangong Huang and Murong Xian's combat strength increased tremendously. Among those strange beasts, there were some sage-level beasts. Humph, what a cheap trick. Taoist Sha snorted coldly as ferocious chi surged from his body. The divine ferocious avatar unleashed a few punches into the void, and with each punch, a large number of the strange beast's bestial souls would dissipate. Its strength was comparable to that of a sage ruler. Not long after, countless strange beasts were wiped out. The 4 strongest wild beasts' bestial souls in the Mountain Sea Scroll had been destroyed by Chu Kuangren 3 years ago, so their strength was no longer what it used to be. What other tricks do you guys have? If not, then die. The divine ferocious avatar behind Taoist Sha shook the void, and surging ferocious chi surged into the sky, causing many sages to shudder. Taoist Sha's strength is too strong. Nangong Huang and Murong Xian are no match for him at all. If this goes on, these 2 Sky Pride sages of the Black Heaven sect will die here. I wonder if Chu Kuangren will feel sorry for them. Some of the sages pondered. Meanwhile, Nangong Huang and Murong Xian knew that they were no match for Taoist Sha. They looked at each other and each took out a talisman. It was a great shift talisman. It was one of the treasures in the serpent deity's treasury. It was also one of the reasons why they dared to approach Taoist Sha. Although the 2 of them were hot-blooded, they were not stupid people. They had long prepared to leave if they were no match for Taoist Sha. Taoist Sha also noticed their actions. His eyes turned cold, and he was about to attack as fast as he could to stop them. However, at that moment, a strange fluctuation suddenly appeared between the heavens and the earth. This fluctuation made the great ones in Firmament Star narrow their eyes. They all looked at the source of the fluctuation in disbelief. Suddenly, a large amount of purple haze rose from the sky, and Taoist rhymes reverberated. It was accompanied by the silhouettes of divine beasts such as Qilins, divine dragons, phoenixes, and white beasts. The auspicious intent gradually covered the entire firmament star. The purple haze stretched for 30,000 miles. It was extremely majestic. The sight before them shocked all the cultivators in Firmament Star. Purple haze from the east. Legend has it that only a supreme sage will have this phenomenon. A sage said with a trembling voice. Who is it? Who has become a supreme sage? Is it a Sky Pride on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard? The top 10 Sky Prides on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard have all become sages. It's impossible for anyone to trigger this phenomenon. No, there's someone else. Someone thought of something. 3 years ago, this phenomenon happened when Chu Kuangren became a sage. It's impossible for 2 supreme sages to appear consecutively in 3 years. Could it be, at that moment, countless sages gulped. They had already thought of a possibility. This possibility shocked them to the core. It was even more shocking than seeing a supreme sage appear. Chu Kuangren unlocked the heavenly punishment seal. Chapter 464. It was not just Firmament Star. The purple haze 15,000 miles from the east phenomenon appeared in the 9 heavens and hell once again, shocking the great ones of both realms. The purple haze 15,000 miles from the east phenomenon has appeared twice in the past 3 years. The probability of this happening is just too low. Could it be the same person? Just what did he do to cause such a phenomenon to appear twice in a row? We must investigate this matter carefully. The great ones of both realms did not know how to react. At this moment, somewhere in the sky of Firmament Star, a gigantic ferry boat suddenly appeared in the void. A creak could be heard. A figure walked out of a room. The young man was dressed in a spotless white robe. He was so handsome that he looked like an immortal who had descended from the heavens. Unlike the previous mortal aura that had no spiritual power fluctuations, the current Chu Kuangren's aura could not be detected at all. He gave off an unfathomable feeling just by standing there. As Chu Kuangren walked out of the room, the purple haze in the surroundings seemed to have found a home and surged towards him. A huge amount of purple haze surged towards him. Each of these purple hazes contained an extremely mysterious Taoist rhyme. Just one of them could allow a cultivator below the level of a sage to quickly break through to the next realm. However, the number of purple hazes that entered Chu Kuangren's body now numbered in the tens of millions. It was hard to imagine how strong his foundation had become. Inside the spiritual mound, the crisscrossing heavenly punishment shackles had disappeared. Countless amounts of purple haze had entered, causing the sage realm lotus heart to solidify. When the lotus heart reached its peak of 9 petals, less than 10% of the purple haze had been used. Chu Kuangren was speechless. It was too terrifying. The amount of purple haze was just too terrifying. Chu Kuangren had heard of the purple haze 15,000 miles from the east phenomenon when a supreme sage was born. However, that was just a phenomenon. The amount of purple haze that a sage could obtain was definitely not as much as what he had. A huge amount of purple haze filled his body. After the lotus heart solidified, the purple haze began to transform his body. His blood, bones, muscles, and even every cell were constantly being washed by the purple haze and gradually began to transform. Chu Kuangren's supreme sage body was gradually taking shape. He could clearly feel that his life's level was increasing infinitely. His physical strength was increasing at a crazy rate. 100 times, 1,000 times, it seemed to be endless. This kind of thing, if those cultivators who had cultivated their bodies for a lifetime were to know about it, it was unknown how ashamed they would be. It was not an exaggeration to say that Chu Kuangren's physical body was improving at a speed that was comparable to that of others who had been cultivating their physique for a lifetime. No one would believe such a thing if they were to say it out loud. Not long after, Chu Kuangren's supreme sage body was completely formed. At this moment, his body was like a sparkling and translucent gem. His meridians, flesh, and internal organs were all clearly visible. In that body, even a single drop of blood contained a strong sage Taoist rhyme, and a single drop of blood was comparable to 90% of all spirit pills and medicines in the world. At the side, Lan Yu was dumbfounded. Even after Chu Kuangren's body had returned to normal, she still could not come back to her senses. Chu Kuangren's transformation was still ongoing. The foundation of a supreme sage and the body of a supreme sage. After all this was done, he had only used less than 20% of the large amount of purple qi. There was still more than half of the purple qi in his body. The purple qi moved in his body and finally seemed to have found a new target. It quickly surged toward his brain. But when they got close to the brain, they all disappeared. No, they did not disappear. Chu Kuangren could feel that the purple qi was still there. It was just that it had been absorbed by a certain part of him. It was his soul. The purple qi was going to transform his soul. The transformation of the soul could not be seen or touched, but Chu Kuangren could clearly feel it. He realized that his mind was unprecedentedly clear, and some of his abilities had been greatly enhanced. The world in front of him seemed to have changed. As long as he willed it, he could capture the Taoist rhyme between the heavens and the earth at any time. That was the embodiment of his enhanced comprehensive ability. Originally, he had the meditational clarity attribute, so his comprehensive ability was already monstrous. Now that the purple qi had transformed his soul, he even wondered if he could understand an emperor technique in the future. Moreover, comprehensive ability was only one of the side effects of the strengthened soul. The mind power that originated from his soul had also received an unprecedented enhancement. Chu Kuangren moved his mind and an invisible mind power spread out, gradually covering the entire firmament star. That's right, the entire firmament star. Countless information surged in from all directions. There was too much information, such as which family was having a wedding, which family had a cultivation genius, which family had a new baby, which place was having a battle. He even saw Gu Linglong, who was far away in the royal Azure dynasty, dealing with some government affairs. As if she had noticed his gaze, she raised her head and looked at him with a puzzled expression. There was too much mixed information surged into his mind, almost causing Chu Kuangren's brain to crash. He quickly cut off the information from the outside world, but through the information he had just read, he also knew some of the things that had happened in the outside world. For example, the Sky Prides had become sages one after another, and he was being challenged. Also, what was happening in the ancient battlefield right now? A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Good, Taoist Sha, I'll start with you later. The transformation was still ongoing. The soul's endurance seemed to be much higher than his physical body and foundation. Most of the purple qi had been absorbed, leaving only the last 2 to 3%. Chu Kuangren seemed to have thought of something. He held the descendant self sword by his waist and channeled the remaining purple qi into the sword. In an instant, the descendant self sword's soul trembled, and a piercing sword hum reverberated in the sky, lasting for a long time. The descendant self sword's power had risen to another level. It was one step closer to becoming an emperor weapon, and the purple qi's function was to enhance its growth potential. This would be of great help to the sword soul's future growth. As for Chu Kuangren, there was no need to mention it. He had the Supreme Sage's body, Supreme Sage's foundation, and Supreme Sage's spirit. His physical body, foundation, and soul had all reached the limits of the sage realm. Even a sage ruler could not compare to him. His growth potential was even more immeasurable. This was the power of a supreme sage. No. Perhaps even a supreme sage was not as terrifying as Chu Kuangren. Such generosity was like a gift from the heavens. A heavenly sage. The heavenly punishment seal is both a restraint and a test. Is this the result of passing the test? Chu Kuangren murmured. He did not think about it anymore. With a thought, he instantly arrived above the ancient battlefield. Inside the ancient battlefield, Taoist Sha and the other sages were still immersed in the purple haze 10,000 miles from the east phenomenon. Even after the phenomenon had dissipated, everyone was still in a daze. Someone has become a supreme sage in the firmament star. Who is it? Who is it? Taoist Sha was in disbelief. That was a supreme sage they were talking about. Throughout the history of the firmament star, there were only a handful of them since ancient times. Just when Taoist Sha was in disbelief, the sky suddenly surged, and a terrifying aura descended upon the ancient battlefield. Chapter 465. In the sky above the ancient battlefield, a powerful aura suddenly descended upon them. The pressure was extremely terrifying, like the might of the heavens. Everyone present trembled. Even though they could only sense the pressure through their spiritual senses, their bodies still trembled uncontrollably. Who is it? Whose aura is so powerful? Is it a boundary emperor? Is it a boundary emperor? No, it's not a boundary emperor. A boundary emperor's aura shouldn't be like this. This aura contains a sage's Taoist rhyme. Are you kidding me? Which sage could be so powerful? Hold on. Everyone seemed to have thought of something. Didn't someone become a supreme sage just now? While everyone was guessing, the sky above the ancient battlefield suddenly surged and a large number of clouds converged to form a face. That face was extremely cold and filled with the aura of the heavens. Everyone was extremely familiar with that face. Chu Kuangren. He really did become a supreme sage. The heavenly punishment seal that no one has ever been able to break since ancient times has been broken by him. At that moment, all the great ones in the firmament star were shocked. They felt like their worldview was about to collapse. I heard that you're looking for me. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's face in the sky spoke with a thunderous voice that shook the mountains and rivers for thousands of miles. Taoist Sha looked at the face in the sky with a pale face. He was speechless as his heart was filled with fear. Such an aura, what kind of being did he provoke? Chu Kuangren, stop trying to fool me. It's just an illusion. If you have the guts, show yourself and fight me. Taoist Sha gritted his teeth and shouted. That was right. This must be an illusion. How could there be such a powerful sage in this world? It was impossible. Oh, do you think you're worthy to fight me? However, your actions in the past few days have already sealed your fate. Since you want to die, I don't mind fulfilling your wish. The rest of you, if you don't want to die, leave the ancient battlefield now. Chu Kuangren said. In an instant, Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and the other captured cultivators rushed out of the ancient battlefield. Meanwhile, the tormented souls in the ancient battlefield were all locked onto by Chu Kuangren's aura and could not move at all. One palm. After most of the people had left, Chu Kuangren spoke. Gather all the power you can and take out all your trump cards. As long as you can take one of my palm strikes, you won't die. Chu Kuangren's voice reverberated throughout the realm. All the cultivators who were paying attention to the ancient battlefield wore solemn expressions. This was an opportunity for them to witness Chu Kuangren's true strength, so they could not miss it. However, at the same time, they had many doubts as well. They could tell that the gigantic face in front of them was merely a manifestation of Chu Kuangren's spiritual thoughts. His real body was not here at all. Then, how was he going to use that palm? Chu Kuangren, don't look down on me too much. I'm a Sky Pride ranked 6th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. I can even fight against a sage ruler, let alone take a palm attack from you. Not to mention one palm strike, defeating you isn't impossible. Daoist Sha roared and said angrily. The ominous aura on his body surged and was pushed to the extreme. It actually resonated with the ominous aura of the entire ancient battlefield, forming a gigantic heavenly ferocious Dharma idol that stood proudly against the unparalleled might of the heavens. Ha! Chu Kuangren chuckled. You can give it a try then. As soon as he said that, the sky suddenly began to distort. Waves of horrifying spatial fluctuations appeared. Tathagata Rebirth Mantra. Chu Kuangren's indifferent voice echoed throughout the sky. A gigantic golden palm suddenly appeared in the distorted sky. It was like the hand of God that could destroy everything in its path. The boundless Buddhist light surged in the void like a tsunami. Wherever it touched, tormented souls were instantly purified. Even the sage-level tormented souls were no exception. No one knew where Chu Kuangren had unleashed that palm attack from, and no one knew how he managed to send it over. However, when that palm attack appeared, everyone shuddered. That terrifying domineering aura and that boundless Buddhist light made them suspect that the owner of that palm attack was a real Buddhist emperor. What? Daoist Sha's expression instantly turned into one of extreme fear. How is this possible? How can a sage unleash such a palm attack? Innate ferocious bell, rise. Daoist Sha took out the bell that he had used to slaughter the tormented souls in the ancient battlefield. Waves of sound waves mixed with ferocious chi erupted and continuously attacked the horrifying palm attack that was slowly descending from the sky. The bell's attack was like a pebble falling into a lake, causing ripples to form on the surface of the golden palm. However, even if Daoist Sha pushed his strength to its limit, he still could not stop the downward momentum of the palm attack. The entire ancient battlefield shook violently under that golden Buddhist palm attack. Some of the strong tormented souls who were hiding were sent flying out. Quick, block that palm attack. We mustn't let that palm attack. The tormented souls said in fear. Chu Kuangren's palm attack was not only meant to kill Daoist Sha. Once it landed on the ancient battlefield, the entire core area would be affected as well. At that moment, every tormented soul in the ancient battlefield, regardless of whether they had gained sentience or not, as long as they could move, they would all attack the descending golden palm attack. The entire ancient battlefield was unprecedentedly united. Boom, 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 countless ferocious chi attacks landed on the giant palm. 10,000 meters, 10,000 meters, the giant palm was getting closer and closer to the ground. Daoist Sha let out a roar, and the divine ferocious avatar behind him raised its arms in an attempt to block that palm attack. However, the moment it made contact, the ferocious chi that was condensed from the divine ferocious avatar began to crumble and disintegrate. In less than 2 breaths' time, the 10,000-meter divine ferocious avatar was completely disintegrated and cleansed by the Buddhist light. Daoist Sha suffered a backlash and spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot before he collapsed to the ground. Compared to the descending giant palm, he was as tiny as an ant. Boom! With an earth-shattering explosion, the golden palm landed on the ancient battlefield's core area, and the terrifying shockwaves spread to the inner circle, the outer circle. It even affected the mountains and rivers that were tens of thousands of kilometers away from the ancient battlefield. That energy was like the gods destroying the world. However, the majestic Buddhist light contained a peaceful chi that did not match that terrifying energy. After the giant palm landed, it spread across the entire ancient battlefield, purifying all the tormented souls and ferocious chi in the ancient battlefield. The impact of that palm attack lasted for more than 10 breaths' time. When the energy dissipated, the crowd used their spiritual thoughts to probe the area, and what they saw was an extremely horrifying scene. The ground of the ancient battlefield's core area immediately caved in, and a gigantic 5-fingered palm print appeared. Ravines spread out from the palm print like a giant net that covered the entire core area. After the majestic Buddhist light spread, not a single tormented soul remained. Even the ferocious chi that lingered in the air had dissipated completely. In other words, the entire ancient battlefield was gone. One of the 10 great forbidden areas had been destroyed by Chu Kuangren with a single palm attack. Everyone was dumbfounded, and they were so shocked that they could not speak. It seems like they can't handle it. In the sky, Chu Kuangren's gigantic face that covered the sun said indifferently. Upon hearing that, the crowd did not know what to say. You've destroyed the entire ancient battlefield, how are we supposed to handle it? How are we supposed to handle it? How many people in this world can handle it? Chapter 466. The news of Chu Kuangren breaking the heavenly punishment seal, reappearing in the world, killing the sage Taoist Sha with a single palm strike, and destroying the ancient battlefield spread like wildfire across the entire firmament star. Almost everyone knew about it. All those who doubted and slandered him were speechless. No one dared to say anything bad about him anymore. That shocking palm strike had shattered everyone's delusions. Inside the heavenly golden palace, sage ruler Changqin had naturally seen Chu Kuangren's palm strike too. His eyes were filled with unprecedented fear. It was too terrifying. Chu Kuangren's palm strike was too terrifying. He dared not imagine how powerful his opponent was. Even a sage ruler could not compare to that kind of power. No, even a boundary emperor would not be able to compare to that kind of power. Did that person become an emperor directly? Sage ruler Changqin thought in an exaggerated manner. I can't believe Chu Kuangren is this powerful. It's not without reason that he's ranked first on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. Xiao Jingchen murmured. Even he had to admit that Chu Kuangren was powerful. Forget Taoist Sha, even he would not be able to withstand that palm strike. At that moment, he was suddenly glad that Chu Kuangren did not accept the challenge. Otherwise, he did not know what would have happened. Hey, that's too much. Is this palm strike something a sage can unleash? Even the forbidden sky prides of the 9 heavens are no better than that. On a mountain peak, a young man gulped as he looked at the ancient battlefield. That palm strike had shocked him. Beside him was another person. It was a man with a white jade folding fan. He looked at the ancient battlefield with a solemn expression as well. Is that the power of a supreme sage? This person is not to be underestimated. We must report this to our clans as soon as possible, the man said. Beside him, the young man nodded. On the other side, the black-robed lady with the metal mask had also seen that shocking palm strike. F*ck me. Is that something a sage can do? Chu Kuangren. I can't believe there's someone like him in Firmament Star. Sob. A sobbing sound came from the black mist behind the black-robed lady. TSK, so you're afraid now? In that case, if you encounter this fellow in the future, you should consciously run far away. The black-robed woman curled her lips. Let's go. It's time for us to make a trip to Acheron Manor. It's time to take back what doesn't belong to them, said the black-robed woman indifferently as streams of Taoist rhymes intertwined in her palm. Above the illusionary mirage, the void in front of Chu Kuangren distorted for a moment before returning to normal. He smiled in satisfaction. This spatial conveyor technique is quite useful. The spatial conveyor technique was a god-tier divine ability that Chu Kuangren had obtained from the gacha roulette. It allowed him to overlap two different spaces and transfer objects from one space to the other. The reason why Chu Kuangren was able to unleash such a terrifying palm attack on the ancient battlefield from 1,000,000 miles away was because of this divine ability. He used the Tathagata rebirth mantra here and used the space transportation technique to transport the power of this monarch art to the sky above the ancient battlefield. This kind of mystique was really convenient and easy to use. If used well, it would have unimaginable effects. And the power of this Taoist connotation is beyond my imagination. Should I say that it's really divine punishment? Chu Kuangren murmured as he looked at his palm. There were still traces of Taoist rhymes in the center of his palm that had yet to dissipate. This Taoist rhyme far surpassed any Taoist rhymes that Chu Kuangren had encountered before. It was not a difference in power, but a difference in essence. This Taoist rhyme seemed to be able to suppress all other Taoist rhymes. Even the emperor suppressing all techniques Taoist rhyme would not be able to suppress this Taoist rhyme because this was the heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme. The heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme was the power that Chu Kuangren had mastered after he had fully understood the heavenly punishment seal. It was also his biggest gain in the past few years. This heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme could be infused into all of his attacks, multiplying his combat strength. It was like the might of the heavens, as if he was punishing on behalf of the heavens. Chu Kuangren retracted his aura and looked at the innate ferocious altar not far away. He noticed that the white-robed general had long lost consciousness as if he had fainted. Chu Kuangren asked Lan Yu, "How's he doing recently?" "He's been holding on, but he fainted yesterday after absorbing all the ferocious qi on the altar," Lan Yu answered. "All right, I understand now." Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. He activated his eye of revelation and observed the white-robed general. His foundation has been restored. Physique transformation in progress, 98% progress, just a little more. Not long after. When the eye of revelation showed that the white-robed general's physique transformation had reached 100%, he suddenly opened his eyes. A terrifying ferocious qi gushed out from his body and engulfed a radius of a few hundred kilometers. The surrounding clouds rumbled as they trembled in shock. That surge of energy was not much weaker than Taoist Sha's. No, it might even be stronger than that. With the complete infallible tormented physique and the cultivation base of a sage ruler, the white-robed general can now be considered one of the top existences in Firmament Star. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He too had the infallible tormented physique, but it had yet to reach its complete form. However, that was no longer important to him. The Supreme Sage's body was more outstanding than any other Taoist physique. There was no need for him to purposely pursue other Taoist physiques. "I owe you one more time. This life of mine is yours now." The white-robed general walked down the innate ferocious altar and stood before Chu Kuangren. His tone was calm but unusually firm. Chu Kuangren did not say anything. Gaining the white-robed general's loyalty on this trip to the ancient battlefield was definitely worth it. From now on, the Black Heavens sect would have another top-tier sage ruler. Even without Chu Kuangren, not many would dare to provoke them. "Come, let's return to the Black Heaven sect first. I'll bring you to meet your descendants," Chu Kuangren said. He kept the elusive mirage into his yin and yang ring. He then grabbed Lan Yu and the white-robed general with one hand and smiled. "No matter what I do, don't resist." Although they did not know what Chu Kuangren meant, the two of them had complete trust in him, so they nodded. Then, a mysterious spatial energy enveloped the three of them, and the next moment, the three of them disappeared on the spot. When they reappeared, they had already traveled 1,000,000 kilometers and arrived outside the astonishing cloud of seas formation. That teleportation ability shocked Lan Yu and the white-robed general. Spatial energy? "I didn't expect Brother Chu to have mastered spatial energy as well," the white-robed general said in surprise. "Ha, I actually know quite a few things." Chu Kuangren chuckled. Naturally, he had used the spatial conveyor technique to teleport the three of them outside the astonishing cloud of seas formation. The reason they did not enter the Black Heaven sect directly was because the astonishing cloud of seas formation had a special ability that could confine space. Back when the Heavenly Golden Palace's Purple Void Sage tried to break the formation, he could not escape using the Shift Talisman. Besides that, Chu Kuangren also realized that using the spatial conveyor technique to transport a human body was much more taxing than transporting pure energy. After all, humans would resist, and the slightest difference in strength would affect the effect of the transportation. If it were not for Lan Yu and the White-Robed General's complete trust in Chu Kuangren, it would not have been so easy to transport them to the designated location. Of course, if Chu Kuangren's strength was much higher than the target's, it would be futile no matter how much the target resisted. All in all, Chu Kuangren was more satisfied with the spatial conveyor technique. He felt that there were many more possibilities for this divine ability to be developed. Chapter 467. When Chu Kuangren returned to the Black Heaven sect, Elder Ruyan and the others welcomed him. Everyone knew that Chu Kuangren had broken the heavenly punishment seal, so they were extremely excited. They were happier than if they were celebrating the new year. Elder Ruyan, the astonishing cloud of seas formation will be lifted tomorrow. The Black Heaven sect no longer needs to hide from the world. Chu Kuangren smiled. In the past, he was sealed away by the heavenly punishment seal. However, now that the seal had been lifted, he was not afraid of anyone. The Black Heaven sect could now walk around Firmament Star openly. He wanted to see who had the guts to go against the Black Heaven sect. Yes. Elder Ruyan nodded excitedly. Activating the astonishing cloud of seas formation consumed a large amount of resources every day. Now that it had been lifted, they only needed to activate it when necessary, which would save them a lot of resources. Moreover, the Black Heaven sect could now officially roam the world. By the way, where's Shang Qingxue? I've brought someone for her to meet, Chu Kuangren asked. Qingxue? She's not back yet, right? Elder Ruyan said. The outstanding disciples of the Black Heaven sect had already roamed the world before Chu Kuangren had even unlocked his seal to gain experience in the mortal world. Shang Qingxue was one of them. Then send a message for her to return, Chu Kuangren said. All right. White-robed brother, I'll have to trouble you to wait a little longer. No problem. The White-robed General was not in a hurry. He had been here for so many years, so he could afford to wait a little longer. Elder Ruyan and the others sized up the White-robed General. They could not help but feel curious about one of the 7 great ghost stories. The White-robed General was a loner, so he did not talk much with Elder Ruyan and the others. He found a quiet place in the Black Heaven sect and stayed there for the time being. With the lifting of the astonishing cloud of seas formation, the Black Heaven sect reappeared in the world. News of the incident began to spread. Everyone knew that Chu Kuangren's seal had been lifted. That peerless madman had returned. Towards this, countless heaven's favorites lamented and hated the unfairness of the heavens. Now that Chu Kuangren has returned, there's no place for us to shine in this world. Heavenly Tao, you're so unfair. Sigh, it's been 3 years. He's back after 3 years, raising the ancient battlefield to the ground. He's many times more terrifying than he was 3 years ago. A person like him won't fall so easily. Who says his time has passed? Isn't it here again? The whole world was talking about it. The name Chu Kuangren had become the focus of everyone in the world. Just as everyone was shocked by Chu Kuangren's return, a few forces were panicking and terrified. They were Acheron Manor, Ethereal Rapture, Sacred Temple of Death, and other forces that had participated in the siege against Black Heaven sect. The current Chu Kuangren had already struck fear into their hearts. In the past, they had expended a lot of resources to annihilate the Black Heaven sect. Even after 3 years, they still had not recovered from their losses, and their strength was far from what it used to be. Now that they were facing Chu Kuangren, who could blast the ancient battlefield with his palm, they were no match for him at all. What could they use to fight him? Several forces quickly held a meeting to discuss this matter. Inside the Heavenly Golden Palace, the leaders of the top orthodoxies were gathered together. What should we do now? Chu Kuangren is just too powerful now that he's unsealed. We're no match for him at all. If he were to come knocking on our door one day, the few of us sage rulers would probably be slapped to death by him. D***MN. Since ancient times, no one has been able to break the heavenly punishment seal. How did he do it? It doesn't matter how he did it. The problem is, how are we going to deal with his revenge? I'm sure you all know what happened to Craggy Ocean Tower. Now that he's even more terrifying than before, our fates might be even worse. What should we do to save ourselves? Why don't we just surrender? We can't beat him anyway. Surrender? Are you kidding me? Even if we surrender, do you think Chu Kuangren will just let us go? Stop dreaming. We are already mortal enemies with him. The few orthodoxies sect leaders were arguing endlessly. They did not look like the leaders of orthodoxies at all. However, it was not surprising. Not many people could remain calm in the face of disaster. Even these sage rulers were no exception. Alright, stop arguing. Sage ruler Changqin stopped the crowd and said, "We're no match for Chu Kuangren, but there are others who are." Brother Changqin, are you referring to the elders of the Forbidden Area? The Great Bottomless Chasm Dweller asked. That's right. Sage ruler Changqin nodded solemnly. It won't be easy to get them to help us. They've sealed themselves in the Forbidden Area for so many years. Do you think they'll agree? The Acheron Manor Lord said. In the past, our Heavenly Golden Palace's boundary Emperor Chang Kuang once went to the Nether Abyss Valley and had some dealings with a senior there. We can be considered to be on good terms with them. If we're prepared with sufficient rewards, it's not impossible to hire them, Sage Ruler Changqin said after taking a deep breath. Everyone revealed hopeful expressions when they heard this. If that's the case, the Ethereal Rapture is willing to offer a kilogram of celestial core to get them to help us. The Ethereal Rapture sect leader was the first to speak. The Acheron Manor is willing to offer 10 billion soulstones. Who do you think our elders are? Why would they be interested in soulstones? The Bottomless Chasm is willing to offer 10 treasures of the deep sea. The sect leaders of the various orthodoxies stated the price they were willing to pay. Each of those treasures was enough to cause a bloodbath in the outside world. Everyone, please prepare everything you can and send them here. I'll personally depart for the Nether Abyss Valley tomorrow. Sage ruler Changqin said. Just when the sect leaders were thinking about how to deal with Chu Kuangren, the Black Heaven sect made an announcement. 3 days later, Chu Kuangren would deal with the Heavenly Golden Palace, the Ethereal Rapture, the Acheron Manor, the Sacred Palace of Death, and the Bottomless Chasm. The entire firmament star was shocked when the announcement was made. Everyone had thought that Chu Kuangren would deal with the orthodoxies that had previously attacked the Black Heaven sect after he broke the seal. However, they did not expect it to happen so soon. Chu Kuangren is giving an announcement to the 5 orthodoxies, telling those cultivators who don't want to die to leave immediately. TSK, I wonder how the 5 orthodoxies are going to deal with this. Even if it's Chu Kuangren, I'm afraid it'll take him some time to deal with them one by one. Things are going to get interesting in the coming days. 3 years ago, the 6 orthodoxies were supposed to deal with Chu Kuangren easily. Who would have thought that the million-strong allied army would be defeated? 3 years later, the orthodoxies will have to face a great catastrophe. The impact of the battle 3 years ago has lasted until today. It's almost time for it to end. Many great ones in the firmament star were watching the impending battle, and the 5 orthodoxies were even more panicked. They hurriedly prepared the most precious items they could and sent them to the Heavenly Golden Palace. Sage ruler Changqin had also rushed to the Nether Abyss Valley the next day. All of a sudden, an undercurrent was brewing. Everyone was paying close attention to when Chu Kuangren would depart for the 5 orthodoxies. However, the puzzling thing was that Chu Kuangren had been staying in the Black Heaven sect since the beginning. Chapter 468. The Nether Abyss Valley was one of the 10 great forbidden areas of Firmament Star. Among the 10 great forbidden areas, the ancient battlefield had the shortest history and was the least dangerous. The other 9 forbidden areas were much more dangerous than the ancient battlefield, and they all had a long history that was a few times longer than the ancient battlefield. The Nether Abyss Valley was shrouded in an eerie atmosphere all year round. Every cultivator who entered this place would have a strange energy invading their mind. Since ancient times, only a few could walk out of this place alive. At this time, on a small path in the Nether Abyss Valley, sage ruler Changqin was carefully moving forward. His surroundings were eerily quiet, and not even the sound of insects could be heard. The eerie atmosphere shrouded him. Before he knew it, a thin layer of cold sweat had formed on his forehead. He felt like his mind was in great torment, and eerie illusions flashed before his eyes from time to time. He even saw Chu Kuangren suddenly appear in front of him. The Nether Abyss Valley could evoke the deepest fear in a person's heart, and Chu Kuangren was the person that sage ruler Changqin feared the most. D****, if this goes on, I'm going to be tortured by these illusions. The Nether Abyss Valley is indeed a forbidden area. Even a sage ruler like me can't stay here for long. I really don't know how those seniors managed to settle down here. They're just too powerful. Sage ruler Changqin relied on his sage ruler cultivation and mental fortitude to persevere and move forward. Suddenly, he heard the cawing of crows. He had never seen a single living creature in the Nether Abyss Valley, but now he heard the cawing of crows. Sage ruler Changqin's eyes lit up. Did you find it? He walked towards the source of the cawing. Soon, he saw a wooden house from afar. In front of the wooden house, there were a few crows perched on a withered tree branch. I found it. Sage ruler Changqin was delighted and hurried forward. However, at that moment, the crows on the tree branch turned to look at him. Their dark red eyes were filled with wariness as they cawed. The cawing was sharp and piercing as if it could pierce through one's soul. Sage ruler Changqin could not help but shudder and stop in his tracks. He looked at the crow a few times with some fear. Then, he took out a black wooden token and said, I am the current palace lord of the heavenly golden palace, sage ruler Changqin. I'm here to see Senior Wuyue. Oh, Blackwood Order. Who are you to Changguang? The crows on the branches suddenly opened their mouths. Their voices were sharp, and it was the voice of a woman. Sacred ruler Changqin was slightly surprised to see this, but he did not ask further. He answered, Zhangguang is the progenitor of our god palace. Why didn't he come himself? Forefather Changguang has already passed away. Hearing that, a look of surprise appeared in the eyes of the crows. They then flew into the air and gathered together, turning into a tall and beautiful woman dressed in a black dress. Wu Yu raised her hand and grabbed the black wooden token in sage ruler Changqin's hand. Then, she said calmly, dead? No matter what, Zhangguang is a quasi-emperor. Aside from us, who are in the Forbidden Land, no one in the outside world can kill him. How did he die? Sage ruler Changqin told her everything that had happened in the outside world in the past few years. Boundary Emperor Wuyue was very surprised to hear that. A supreme sage has appeared in the firmament star. That's rare. No wonder the heavenly Tao was shaken and such energy waves appeared. Then, she fiddled with the wooden token and said, since he's a supreme sage, his combat strength should be strong enough to rival a quasi-emperor. Although I'm friends with Changguang, my true form is still in hibernation. There's no need for me to fight a sage with a bright future just for your sake. Sage ruler Changqin seemed to have expected such a reaction from her. He took out a yin and yang ring and handed it over. It contained the gifts prepared by the orthodoxies. Senior, do you know that in this great era, there are all kinds of opportunities of fortune? Some of them are also very useful to quasi-emperors. Senior, you're in hibernation here, so it's inconvenient for you to travel outside. If you can help us overcome this calamity, the heavenly golden palace is willing to serve you. Sage ruler Changqin said. Wuyue took the yin and yang ring and pondered. She looked into the depths of the Nether Abyss Valley. There were many quasi-emperors like her in hibernation. It was not just the Nether Abyss Valley. The other forbidden areas had more or less people like them. However, in the past, the Great Tao did not exist, and it was difficult for emperors to appear. Therefore, these people could only live in seclusion in the forbidden areas and ignore the affairs of the world. Some of them even chose to hibernate to preserve their combat strength in order to wait for the opportunity to become an emperor. Now that the era of emperors had arrived, those in the forbidden areas would not be able to sit still any longer. It was time for her to make a proper plan. The heavenly golden palace was a top-notch orthodoxy after all. If she could use it, it might be useful in the future. However, was it worth it to make an enemy out of a supreme sage? Boundary Emperor Wuyue weighed the pros and cons. Sage ruler Changqin gritted his teeth and took out a light blue supreme medicine. Waves of mysterious Taoist rhymes emanated from it. This is an emperor-grade supreme medicine. Boundary Emperor Wuyue's eyes lit up. That's right, this is an emperor-grade supreme medicine. This medicine can extend a boundary emperor's life by more than 10,000 years. Please accept it, Senior Wuyue. Even a boundary emperor had a limited lifespan. The older a boundary emperor was, the weaker their physical strength would be, and the more limited their combat strength would be. Otherwise, there would not be so many boundary emperors who chose to hibernate in the forbidden areas to preserve their strength. An emperor-grade supreme medicine that could extend a boundary emperor's life by more than 10,000 years was definitely a huge temptation to a boundary emperor. Even though boundary Emperor Wuyue was still a long way from heavenly deterioration stage 5, she still did not want to reject it. Chang Guang and I have a history of discussing Taoism. Since you're so kind, I'll go on your behalf. Boundary Emperor Wuyue said calmly before grabbing the monarch's supreme treasure herb in Sage Ruler Changqin's hand. Thank you, Senior Wuyue. Sage Ruler Changqin was overjoyed. 3 days had passed since the Black Heaven sect announced that they would deal with the 5 orthodoxies of the Heavenly Golden Palace. It was now nighttime, and when the sun rose, it would be time for Chu Kuangren to strike. However, what puzzled everyone was that Chu Kuangren had not left the Black Heaven sect at all in the past 3 days. How was he going to deal with the 5 orthodoxies then? Late at night. The bright moon hung high in the sky, its moonlight was like water, and the stars were dazzling. Black Heaven sect, inside the towering Heaven Palace. Chu Kuangren sat with his legs crossed, familiarizing himself with the power within his body. Suddenly, his eyes opened, and his gaze traveled hundreds of kilometers to the Black Heaven sect's mountain entrance. A lady in a black dress slowly walked towards him. There was not a single trace of aura on this lady, as if she had blended in with the night. She walked into the Black Heaven sect as if there was no one around. Aside from Chu Kuangren, no one else could see her. You sure have guts to come uninvited, you thief. Chu Kuangren's voice rang in Boundary Emperor Wuyue's ears. The next moment, he stepped on the moonlight and slowly walked towards her. Upon seeing Chu Kuangren before her, Boundary Emperor Wuyue's eyes revealed a hint of awe. Everyone says that Black Heaven sect leader Chu has an otherworldly appearance. Now that I've seen you in person, I finally know that the rumors are true. Chapter 469. You may be telling the truth, but that doesn't cover up the fact that you've infiltrated the Black Heaven sect. Tell me, why are you here? As he spoke, Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation. Information about Boundary Emperor Wuyue appeared before his eyes. Wuyue, a blood-eyed crow, Boundary Emperor. Possesses the mystique of the blood-eyed crow, Boundary Emperor technique, current state, spiritual thought form. The information that flashed before his eyes caught Chu Kuangren's attention. He could not help but smirk. Sure enough, there were more Boundary Emperors in this world than Hai Yu and Chang Guang. After all, even if no one had become an emperor in the past 150,000 years, there should have been a certain number of Boundary Emperors. Not to mention the Primordial Era and the Primordial Era. Sect leader Chu, you're already a supreme sage at such a young age. Your talent is unparalleled throughout history, and you've managed such a large orthodoxy so well. I'm impressed. Boundary Emperor Wuyue wanted to get closer to Chu Kuangren. If possible, she would rather resolve Sage Ruler Changqin's request peacefully. At that moment, Chu Kuangren raised his hand, and a pen and paper appeared in front of him. Boundary Emperor Wu Yue was puzzled and confused. Here's a pen and paper. If you're here to praise me, write down your compliments and leave. I'll read them when I have the time in the future, Chu Kuangren said calmly. The corners of Quasi-Emperor Wu Yue's mouth twitched when she heard this. She was wasting her breath. Sect leader Chu, you must be joking. My name is Wu Yue, and I'm here today to be a lobbyist for the Heavenly Golden Palace. Alright, you may leave now. Chu Kuangren raised his hand to interrupt Boundary Emperor Wu Yue. You, Boundary Emperor Wu Yue's expression darkened. Sect leader Chu, isn't it rude of you to chase me away again and again? This is my territory. It's rude of you to come here without an invitation. The Heavenly Golden Palace and the other orthodoxies are sworn enemies of my Black Heaven sect, yet you're trying to persuade them. That's disrespectful, and disrespectful. I'm already being very polite by merely asking you to leave, Chu Kuangren said. Quasi-Emperor Wu Yue was rendered speechless. After a while, she took a deep breath. Looks like sect leader Chu's eloquence is not inferior to your cultivation. She took a step forward, and a boundless and terrifying aura erupted from her initially lifeless body, crushing towards Chu Kuangren. Then let me put it this way. I, Wu Yu, will protect the Heavenly Golden Palace and the other orthodoxies. Is that clear enough? Boundary Emperor Wu Yue said in a cold voice. Cut the crap. Can't you just be more direct? Chu Kuangren said calmly as a surge of sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme emanated from his body, fighting against Boundary Emperor Wu Yue's domineering aura. Then let me be clear. I will destroy the Heavenly Golden Palace and the other orthodoxies. No one can save them. Both of their auras were clashing against each other, but not a single trace of their auras leaked out. Other than the void around them that seemed to be slightly distorted, the rest of the Black Heaven sect was not affected at all. Some of the disciples were still sleeping soundly, unaware that two powerful figures were confronting each other not far away from them. Under the starry sky, Chu Kuangren and Boundary Emperor Wu Yue's auras circulated as they faced each other from afar, neither giving in to the other. One was a newly ascended supreme sage, a peerless sky pride. The other was a Boundary Emperor's clone that had lived for countless years. Both of them were rare top-notch cultivators in the current era. You want to protect those orthodoxies? Do you think you're qualified? The descendant self-sword at Chu Kuangren's waist vibrated, and the sword-based Taoist rhyme suddenly surged. In an instant, it completely suppressed Boundary Emperor Wu Yue's aura. Her opponent was just a spiritual thought clone. Even if she could unleash the combat strength of a sage ruler, it was still not enough against the current Chu Kuangren. She did not even know if she could withstand a single sword attack from him. At that moment, the darkness of the night was broken by the first rays of dawn. The clouds rumbled as the sun rose. The sky was bright. When Chu Kuangren saw that, he simply said, "It's time. Chu Kuangren, you win, but I've said that I will protect those orthodoxies. If you dare to come, then fight me." Boundary Emperor Wu Yue said. She knew that today's negotiation had failed, and her spiritual thought clone was no match for her opponent. Hence, she wanted to leave. Oh, you think you can leave just like that? You must be dreaming. If I want to leave, no one in this world can stop me. As soon as Boundary Emperor Wu Yue said that, her spiritual thought clone turned into hundreds of crows and flew in all directions. Each crow was a strand of her spiritual sense. As long as one of them didn't die, her spiritual sense incarnation wouldn't disappear. If I want to stay, no one can leave. Chu Kuangren said. He raised his palm, and an invisible wave of mind power instantly spread in all directions, enveloping the entire area. All the crows were trapped in mid-air by his mind power. A hint of panic appeared in the crow's eyes. What have you done? Let your real body have a taste of my power. Chu Kuangren said as he activated his mind power. The hundreds of crows all turned into black smoke and disappeared. After becoming a sage, Chu Kuangren's soul had been transformed by the purple haze, which greatly increased his growth potential and soul energy. His spiritual thoughts, which were already far beyond a sage ruler's, had reached an unimaginable level. Now, he could easily kill most sage rulers with just his spiritual thoughts alone. If he were to use his runic techniques, even a 7-step sage ruler would not be able to last more than a few rounds. Killing a few crows was just a matter of reaching out and grabbing them. Inside the Nether Abyss Valley, a grunt was heard in the wooden hut. Chu Kuangren, if that's the case, I shall fight you with my real body. Let's see how you can withstand the power of a boundary emperor. Firmament Star, outside the Black Heaven sect. Surges of spiritual thoughts surged and spied on the Black Heaven sect. Today, it was time for Chu Kuangren to deal with the 5 orthodoxies. When everyone's spiritual thoughts arrived at the Black Heaven sect, they saw Chu Kuangren, who had just destroyed Boundary Emperor Wuyue's clone, standing on a mountain peak. As he stood on the mountain peak, the morning sun shone on him as if he was draped in a golden robe, making him look even more sacred. At that moment, a white ray of light swept past. It was Lan Yu. In her hands, there were 5 wooden tablets. The crowd did not understand. Did he not say that he was going to destroy the 5 orthodoxies? What was he up to now? Master, the items are here. Lan Yu placed the 5 wooden tokens in front of Chu Kuangren. Come, pick one. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Lan Yu casually picked up a wooden token with a few red words written on it. Acheron Manor. Then let's destroy Acheron Manor first. Chu Kuangren said nonchalantly. However, the great ones who heard Chu Kuangren's words felt like they were dreaming when they saw that. The fate of a few top-notch orthodoxies was tied to a few small wooden tokens. Whichever one they picked would be destroyed. Was there anything more ridiculous than this in this world? At that moment, Chu Kuangren raised his hand and gathered the spiritual energy of the heavens and earth. A 10,000-meter tall ancient Buddha appeared in the air, its Buddhist light surging like waves. It was the Emperor technique, Tathagata Rebirth Mantra. The Tathagata avatar raised its hand and unleashed a palm attack. This palm attack was exactly the same as the one that destroyed the ancient battlefield. Chapter 470. The sea of clouds rumbled as the sun rose. Today's weather was perfect for killing and annihilating an entire sect. Chu Kuangren stood on top of a mountain peak as the boundless Buddhist light on his body surged and turned into an ancient Buddha that shook the heavens and earth. His spiritual thoughts surged and instantly covered the entire firmament star. Soon, he locked onto the location of Acheron Manor. The ancient Buddha slowly unleashed a palm attack. This palm strike directly struck into the void and disappeared. While everyone was still in shock, they suddenly realized that a huge surge of energy had appeared in the sky above Acheron Manor 1,000,000 kilometers away. That was the energy of the Tathagata Rebirth Mantra. Everyone surged their spiritual thoughts and realized that an extremely powerful Buddhist light had appeared in the sky above Acheron Manor. A giant golden palm descended from the sky. F***ck me. Isn't that Chu Kuangren's technique? Isn't he in the Black Heaven sect? Oh my god, he sent that palm attack to Acheron Manor from 1,000,000 kilometers away. How did he do it? Everyone was horrified. It was terrifying. It was truly terrifying. Any orthodoxy would be afraid of such an ability. Imagine if one was sitting at home while a palm came from the sky. If one did not even know where the other party was, how could one fight? All the sages in Acheron Manor flew out and looked at the giant golden palm descending from the sky in fear. Activate the formation. The Acheron Manor Lord roared. Lines of runes intertwined above Acheron Manor and turned into a black chi barrier that covered Acheron Manor like a giant bowl. With a loud boom, the giant palm collided with the chi barrier. The ground within a 10,000-kilometer radius shook violently. Huge cracks spread and crisscrossed the ground. Many disciples in Acheron Manor were shocked by the terrifying impact and vomited blood on the spot as they looked at the giant palm in the sky in fear. It was a power that could destroy the world. Crack, Crack! At that moment, countless cracks appeared on the chi barrier that protected Acheron Manor. The Acheron Manor Lord and the others were shocked. We can't hold it anymore. So fast. With a loud explosion, the chi barrier exploded. The Acheron Manor Lord and the other sages could not just sit and wait. They channeled their strongest powers and unleashed the strongest emperor technique of Acheron Manor. The Yellow Spring's Eye. Numerous gigantic demonic eyes appeared in the void of space. Rays of demonic light shot out and hit the giant palm in the sky. However, this only slightly hindered the momentum of the giant palm. It was impossible for it to collapse. Chu Kuangren. We won't let you off even if we become ghosts. Acheron Manor Lord bellowed in despair. But it was useless. In the end, the golden palm still landed on Acheron Manor. Countless palaces and buildings were instantly destroyed, and everything within 100 miles was razed to the ground. The dust that was kicked up spread out like waves, covering tens of thousands of miles and causing a huge impact on the surrounding terrain and environment. The mountains cracked and the rivers changed their course. The sages in the Acheron Manor exploded one by one. Countless disciples had no chance of surviving this attack. With a single palm strike, Yellow Springs Manor was destroyed. Everyone was shocked, speechless. Some of them had seen the scene of Chu Kuangren destroying the ancient battlefield with a single palm attack, but they could not help but be shocked when they saw it again. Sometimes, they even wondered if he had become an emperor. How could a sage have such power? In the Black Heaven sect, the Buddhist light on Chu Kuangren's body slowly dissipated. He was surrounded by beauties, birds, and flowers, but 1,000,000 miles away, his single palm attack had turned the world into an apocalyptic scene. The more that happened, the more terrified everyone felt. Come, Lan Yu. Flip another one. Chu Kuangren said. Hearing his words, Lan Yu's fingers moved back and forth between the remaining wooden tablets, as if debating which one to choose. Many great ones gulped. One must know that her choice could very well mean the end of an orthodoxy. That pair of hands held the life and death of countless people in their hands. This one. Lan Yu flipped the next wooden tablet. Oh, the sacred palace of death. It'll be him then. Meanwhile, in the sacred palace of death. The sacred palace of death rushed out of the palace and said fearfully, "Quick, activate the protective formation and hide all disciples in the stone coffins." A gray barrier enveloped the entire sacred palace. Then, a giant mountain rose from the ground. Instead of calling it a mountain, it was more accurate to call it a giant stone coffin. The stone coffin was engraved with countless runes. Countless disciples entered the stone coffin in confusion, not knowing what was going on. However, they all knew that it was something big. The stone coffin would only be activated when the sacred palace was on the brink of death. Look, what's that? Suddenly, a disciple exclaimed in fear. The sky above the sacred palace distorted, and a giant fist with a diameter of hundreds of feet, burning with black flames, descended from the sky. The surging energy shook the heavens and earth. Quick, enter the stone coffin, the sacred palace of death yelled. He did the same and rushed into the stone coffin. The black fist landed on the sacred palace of death's barrier and shattered it in the blink of an eye. Then, it landed on the giant stone coffin. Waves of life and death Taoist rhymes erupted from the stone coffin. However, the power of the fist was too terrifying. The Taoist rhymes on the stone coffin were continuously shattered, and the impact penetrated the stone coffin and affected the people inside. One by one, the sacred palace disciples exploded into mist, and the sages' bodies began to crack as they screamed in pain. With a loud bang, the stone coffin shattered. The life and death Taoist rhymes and the energy contained in the fist collided, forming a storm that engulfed everyone. The sacred palace of death. Destroyed. On the mountain peak of the Black Heaven sect. Lan Yu, next. It's the ethereal rapture. Alright. Inside the ethereal rapture. The sect leader rushed out and yelled, "All disciples, run." Run as far as you can. Sect leader, what's happening? A disciple asked in fear. Get out of here. The ethereal rapture sect leader continued to yell in despair. However, it was too late. A surge of finger strength suddenly descended from the sky. That finger strength contained a power that could awaken one's Taoist core. Everyone at the scene was targeted by the finger strength, and their expressions froze. Then, the finger strength exploded and engulfed the entire ethereal rapture. The ethereal rapture. Destroyed. Next, the bottomless chasm. Lan Yu flipped over another wooden tablet. The bottomless chasm is located deep in the ocean. Looks like I'll have to put in more effort. Chu Kuangren muttered. The descendant self-sword at his waist was unsheathed, and a terrifying purple sword ray covered the sky before disappearing into the void. The next moment, the sword ray traveled millions of miles in an instant and arrived at the surface of the ocean. The entire ocean trembled violently at that moment. Under the majestic and boundless sword pressure, the ocean split to the left and right. A single sword attack, splitting the ocean. The sword ray charged straight into the ocean and arrived at a group of magnificent palaces. Here, the bottomless chasm dweller and the others were already waiting. They used all kinds of techniques in an attempt to disintegrate the sword ray. However, when the sword ray exploded, it turned into millions of fine sword chi that swept across the entire bottomless chasm like a sword chi storm. The bottomless chasm, which had existed for hundreds of thousands of years, was instantly shattered by such terrifying power. In the end, only a few survived the bottomless chasm. Those magnificent palaces were reduced to dust at the bottom of the ocean. A palm attack, a fist attack, a finger attack, and a sword attack. For top-notch orthodoxies were destroyed. All the great ones who witnessed the entire process were so shocked that they were speechless. They felt that it was ridiculous. Chapter 471. Chu Kuangren had activated the 4 great emperor techniques and destroyed 4 top-notch orthodoxies. His invincible might shocked all the great ones in the firmament star. The continuous eruptions of energy also attracted the attention of the ancient beings in the ancient forbidden areas. These ancient beings released their spiritual thoughts and began to probe the outside world. Soon, they found out about Chu Kuangren's existence. At that moment, even these ancient beings could not help but be amazed. However, Chu Kuangren did not know about this. Even if he did, he would not care too much. At that moment, his spiritual thoughts were patrolling the ruins of the 4 top-notch orthodoxies, moving valuable items into the Black Heaven sect's treasury using the spatial conveyor skill. This ability was extremely convenient. Wherever his spiritual thoughts went, the spatial conveyor skill would be activated. In other words, other than some special places, Chu Kuangren could land his attacks on a specific place and move the items to a specific location if he wanted to. As expected of a god-tier ability. Chu Kuangren was amazed. Suddenly, he noticed something and let out a soft gasp. When his spiritual thoughts scanned the Acheron Manor, he found a black stone tablet in the broken sarcophagus. There was a strange Taoist rhyme flowing on it, and it contained a powerful emperor's aura. His spatial conveyor skill did not work on the stone tablet. Ugh, I was just praising this ability, and now it's giving me a hard time. Chu Kuangren laughed and shook his head. It was not that the spatial conveyor skill was not strong enough, but Chu Kuangren's cultivation level was not strong enough to move this strange stone tablet. He secretly made a mental note of this stone tablet. Alright, there's only one orthodoxy left. Chu Kuangren smiled as he looked at the last wooden tablet in Lan Yu's hand. With a lift of his hand, tens of thousands of runic swords formed, each of which contained a terrifying sage aura. These runic swords were enough to wipe out the Acheron Manor and the other 3 top-notch orthodoxies once again. The Heavenly Golden Palace has a delivery for you. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Tens of thousands of rune swords flew out and pierced through the void. They came to the sky above the Heavenly Golden Palace and crashed down. The violent runic aura shrouded the heavens and earth. Sage ruler Changqin and the hidden forefathers of the Heavenly Golden Palace all appeared. Defend with everything you've got. Sage ruler Changqin bellowed. A huge defensive array formation enveloped the divine palace. When the rune swords landed on it, a series of loud rumbling sounds could be heard. Xiao Jingchen, who was standing on a mountain peak, had a rare look of fear in his eyes when he saw the rune swords falling like raindrops. He dared not imagine. What if Chu Kuangren had accepted his challenge back then? He was afraid that he would be smashed to death like Daoist Sha. How could there be such a terrifying sky pride in the firmament star? Even those forbidden geniuses of the 9 heavens might not be able to compare to him. Boom, 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 the heavenly golden palace's defense formation did not last for more than a few breaths before it shattered. Rune swords rained down from the sky. Sage ruler Changqin and the others roared as they desperately tried to defend themselves. However, even with a few sage rulers attacking at the same time, they were still unable to fend off the runic swords. Countless sword chi landed on the heavenly golden palace, and the sounds of explosions rang out like firecrackers. Smoke and dust flew everywhere as the mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. The disciples of the divine palace are innocent. Chu Kuangren, your actions are no different from those of the devil. You shall die a horrible death. Some of the divine palace elders roared into the sky. However, they were soon engulfed by the runic swords, and there was no more sound. Suddenly, something was flying towards them from afar. It was a blood-eyed crow that emanated a terrifying aura. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived above the heavenly golden palace. The crow screeched and flapped its wings. Boundless spiritual energy surged and fused with a terrifying Taoist rhyme to form an endless storm. In the blink of an eye, the rune swords that filled the sky shattered one by one. It's Senior Weiyue. Sage ruler Changqin exclaimed in surprise. Everyone's eyes lit up with hope when they saw Weiyue. Meanwhile, in the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren smirked and placed his hand on the hilt of the Descendant Self-sword at his waist. An interesting person has appeared. I'll be back soon. Chu Kuangren smiled and took a step forward. The void distorted and he disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already above the heavenly golden palace. He looked at Boundary Emperor Weiyue and said, I've told you that no one can protect the heavenly golden palace. If you insist on protecting it, you'll be digging your own grave. You're a supreme sage, so your combat strength is indeed extraordinary. However, you've just used emperor techniques to destroy 4 orthodoxies. How much spiritual power do you have left in your body? How many of my attacks can you withstand? Boundary Emperor Weiyue's huge body quickly shrunk and transformed back into a graceful beauty. She stared coldly at Chu Kuangren. She had witnessed the terrifying power that Chu Kuangren used to destroy 4 orthodoxies. She had to admit that it was definitely at the level of a boundary emperor. He was definitely one of the top boundary emperors. However, she did not believe that Chu Kuangren still had enough spiritual power to replenish his spiritual power. Even with the help of an emperor-grade supreme elixir, it would take some time for him to replenish his spiritual power. 3 attacks. Chu Kuangren said. You can only take 3 attacks from me. At least you know your limits. Boundary Emperor Weiyue chuckled. No, I mean, I'll kill you in 3 attacks. You. How arrogant. Boundary Emperor Weiyue snorted coldly as a surge of Boundary Emperor aura erupted from her body. It was much stronger than Boundary Emperor Chang Kuang and Boundary Emperor Haiyu. Not far away, Xiao Jingchen murmured, with such a domineering aura, Boundary Emperor Weiyue could barely be considered a mid-tier Boundary Emperor. Due to the era of Dharma's end, the Boundary Emperors had a hard time becoming emperors. However, that did not mean that a Boundary Emperor's strength was unchanging. Over the years, the Boundary Emperors would always find ways to increase their strength. Some Boundary Emperors' destructive power was not inferior to an emperor's. It was only due to the suppression of Taoist rhymes that they were weaker than an emperor's. Xiao Jingchen looked at Chu Kuangren, who was standing proudly in the sky, with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. How would Chu Kuangren deal with Boundary Emperor Weiyue? Would the spiritual power in his body be enough to deal with Boundary Emperor Wuyue? In the sky, Boundary Emperor Wuyue seemed to have been provoked by Chu Kuangren. She made the first move, and with a wave of her hand, a black ray of light shot out like lightning. That black ray of light contained a powerful Taoist rhyme and spiritual power. Its terrifying strength was many times stronger than a sage ruler's. The descendant self-sword at Chu Kuangren's waist was unsheathed, and a purple sword ray poured out from its blade. It was the Emperor technique, the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. That sword attack was the purest form of attack. Chu Kuangren's sword attack collided with that black ray of light. Two surges of energy collided, and the Taoist rhymes intertwined. Everyone around them was sent flying by the impact, and many buildings were destroyed. Even a sage ruler could not help but be pushed back a few hundred meters. That was only the aftermath of the attack. Chu Kuangren and Boundary Emperor Wuyue were the ones who bore the brunt of the impact. I can't believe he still has such a powerful spiritual power. Boundary Emperor Wuyue was pushed back a few meters by the impact. Although she had a strong Boundary Emperor body, she could not help but bleed from the corner of her mouth. However, when she saw Chu Kuangren, her eyes could not help but narrow. Chu Kuangren was unscathed by that impact. His body was even more terrifying than hers. Chapter 472. A sage's body was already far stronger than an ordinary cultivator's. Moreover, Chu Kuangren had the body of a supreme sage. How terrifying was his physical body! Even a strange beast like Boundary Emperor Wuyue could not compare. It was not an exaggeration to say that even if Chu Kuangren stood still, a sage ruler would not be able to hurt him. Moreover, he had the immortal body. An indestructible supreme sage's body coupled with the immortal body, this combination was almost insane. Chu Kuangren even dared to say that no one below the Emperor realm could kill him. Chu Kuangren relied on his powerful body to withstand the collision of the two energies and then flew towards Boundary Emperor Wuyue. Come, take my second sword attack. Chu Kuangren held the descendant self-sword in his hand and a purple sword ray flashed. Boundary Emperor Wuyue felt threatened by that sword ray. She could not take this attack head-on. Boundary Emperor Wuyue instantly made a decision. Her eyes flashed with a scarlet light. This was the special ability of the blood-eyed crow, the blood crow's delusion. It was a divine ability that could confuse one's mind. Even beings of the same cultivation level as Quasi-Emperor Wuyue would be affected. Her strength was not considered top-notch among Quasi-Emperors, but with this divine ability, there were not many in the Nether Abyss Valley who were willing to provoke her. A scarlet light shot out from Boundary Emperor Wuyue's eyes and shone on Chu Kuangren. From Boundary Emperor Wuyue's perspective, Chu Kuangren's mind would be affected and he would be frozen on the spot, unable to move. At that time, she would be able to end him. However, all she saw was Chu Kuangren's sword slashing out without hesitation. The sword ray poured down and enveloped her completely. He was not affected by the blood crow's delusion at all. How could this be? Boundary Emperor Wuyue's mind raced, but she did not have the time to think because the dazzling purple sword ray was already coming towards her. That one mistake, and the sword ray was already upon her. With a loud slash, Boundary Emperor Wuyue took the full brunt of the sword ray. A large amount of blood splattered from her body, and her entire body was sent flying for thousands of meters before she crashed into a mountain in the distance. A ferocious sword wound extended from Boundary Emperor Wuyue's left shoulder to her waist. It was so deep that her bones could be seen, and it almost cut her in half. Oh, I can't believe you're still alive. That black dress you're wearing must be pretty too. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He had clearly felt a strong resistance just now, which had resisted part of the power of his sword light. Clearly, the black dress she was wearing was a defensive quasi-emperor weapon. Otherwise, that sword strike would have sliced her in half. Cough, cough, Boundary Emperor Wuyue coughed out 2 mouthfuls of blood and looked extremely pathetic. She glared at Chu Kuangren with hatred in her eyes. B*****. A powerful Taoist rhyme burst forth from her body as a large amount of spiritual energy surged out, causing the entire Xiantian divine palace to shake. I'll kill you. Ha, I've just said that I'll kill you in 3 moves. You still remember that, don't you? Chu Kuangren suddenly chuckled. Immediately after, a large amount of spiritual qi suddenly surged above Boundary Emperor Wuyue. Countless mysterious runes intertwined, turning into an azure rune. A beam of light descended from the rune and enveloped Boundary Emperor Wuyue. An astonishing pressure enveloped her, causing her entire body to tremble. An instinctive feeling of fear arose in her heart. What kind of rune is this? It's just a lightning talisman, but it's Emperor grade. Chu Kuangren said calmly. The spiritual qi within a 10,000-kilometer radius was sucked dry and channeled into the Emperor-grade lightning talisman. Arcs of electricity danced on the rune's rune, emanating an endless amount of pressure. That pressure was like heavenly might. It was not just an Emperor-grade lightning talisman, but an Emperor-grade lightning talisman that Chu Kuangren had imbued with heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme. At that moment, a familiar aura emanated from the lightning talisman. This aura is heavenly tribulation. How is this possible? This rune contains the aura of heavenly tribulation. I've never heard of such a rune before. Everyone was terrified. Chu Kuangren could activate the power of heavenly tribulations with runes? Impossible. How can anyone in this world control heavenly tribulations? That's the authority of the heavenly Tao. This is impossible. Quasi-Emperor Wuyue's face drained of all color and turned deathly pale. This isn't a heavenly tribulation, but heavenly punishment. And I shall mete out punishment on behalf of the heavens. Chu Kuangren stood in the void with a cold expression on his handsome face. It was as if he was the embodiment of the heavenly Tao itself. A roar came from within the lightning talisman, and a ferocious lightning dragon emerged from it. It stared at Boundary Emperor Wuyue with a pair of emotionless eyes. At that moment, Boundary Emperor Wuyue was trembling helplessly. Anyone who saw her would think that she was a weak and pitiful girl instead of the almighty Boundary Emperor. Brother, please stop. At that moment, an old voice came from the void. However, Chu Kuangren ignored it and snapped his fingers. Fall. The terrifying lightning dragon descended with the heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme. Accompanied by a shrill scream, Boundary Emperor Wuyue's body disintegrated and turned into ashes within the lightning. When the lightning dissipated, Boundary Emperor Wuyue had completely disappeared. Not even a single piece of her was left. I said I'll kill you within 3 moves. Within 3 moves, I'll scatter your ashes, Chu Kuangren said calmly before he looked up into the sky. Just now, someone had asked him to stop. Brother, you've crossed the line. The old voice spoke again, this time with a hint of anger. Crossed the line? Ha, where are you? Chu Kuangren chuckled and asked. What does that have to do with you? Tell me where you are so I can go and kill you. The moment he said, kill you, thunder and lightning erupted. It was as if the heavens were enraged. Was this a joke? Chu Kuangren and the heavenly golden palace were irreconcilable enemies. Boundary Emperor Wuyue wanted to stop him and kill him. Was it too much to kill her? If the owner of the old voice had not used some method to isolate spiritual thoughts from prying eyes, Chu Kuangren would have been standing right in front of him. The old voice fell silent for a moment before it said, Brother, you're too vicious. I hope you know what to do next. After that, the old voice disappeared. Too vicious. What a joke. Which strong cultivator in this world did not rise by stepping on the bones of others? As long as I have a clear conscience, I don't care if everyone in this world sees me as an evil spirit or an Ashura. Chu Kuangren let out a long roar. Then, he gently raised his hand and looked at the remaining elders and disciples of the heavenly golden palace. Tens of thousands of runic swords once again formed. Chu Kuangren, I'm willing to accept my death. Please spare, sage ruler Changqin said loudly. However, before he could finish his sentence. Chu Kuangren had already waved his hand. Fall. Wherever the runic sword chi passed, sword chi filled the sky. From the sage ruler elders to the sect leader and servants, not a single one of them survived. It was the annihilation of an entire sect. Not a single one of them would be spared. After that, Chu Kuangren turned around and left. Acheron Manor, Sacred Palace of Death, Ethereal Rapture, Bottomless Chasm, Heavenly Golden Palace. 5 top-notch orthodoxies were annihilated overnight. All the cultivators who witnessed this scene fell silent. On this day, they witnessed the annihilation of the orthodoxies and the birth of a supreme legend. To them, Chu Kuangren was no longer just the #1 Sky Pride in the world. They could even remove the title of Sky Pride from his title. #1 in the world. Chapter 473. After wiping out 5 orthodoxies in a row, Chu Kuangren had unleashed his unparalleled combat strength, shocking the entire firmament star. In an instant, the title of the world's strongest cultivator was crowned on his head. Not just the world's strongest Sky Pride, but the world's strongest cultivator. Chu Kuangren was in the limelight. Meanwhile, above the ruins of Acheron Manor, a black-robed figure suddenly arrived. It was a graceful lady in a black robe with a metal mask on her face. Behind the lady was a cloud of black mist that seemed to be alive as it let out a sound from time to time. Destroying Acheron Manor with a single palm. D***MN it, this Chu Kuangren is really a monster, the black-robed lady mumbled as she looked at the scene. She carefully searched the ruins for a while. F***CK, isn't this Acheron Manor too poor? I can't even find anything good here. How can this be considered a top-notch orthodoxy? Or was it all destroyed with a single palm? Forget it, let's find that thing first. The black-robed lady continued to search the ruins for a while. Relying on her unique senses, she came before the broken sarcophagus and found the strange, pitch-black stone tablet. Her eyes suddenly lit up. Finally found it. The black-robed lady looked at the stone tablet with excitement in her eyes. After so many years, it's finally returned to its rightful owner. Just as she was about to take the stone tablet away, "These are my spoils of war." An indifferent voice rang out. Out of nowhere, a figure had appeared on the stone tablet. That person stood on top of the stone tablet. He was dressed in white and had black hair. The black-robed lady's eyes narrowed when she saw him, and she immediately retreated in a defensive stance. Chu Kuangren, this was not good. It was impossible for her to take anything from Chu Kuangren's hands. Roar! An uneasy roar came from the black mist behind the black-robed lady. The black mist expanded by a few times, and a sharp claw reached out. "You dog, behave yourself," the black-robed lady said softly. Ugh! The being in the black mist let out an aggrieved cry. Oh, a demonic being. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation and scanned through the lady and the black mist, analyzing their information. Infernal demonic wolf, sage ruler, Zhan Hongying, the princess of the Azura clan, a sage, Zhan Hongying, ranked 2nd on the hidden dragon list. Tell me everything you know about this stone tablet. Chu Kuangren stood on top of the stone tablet and asked. If I tell you, can you give me the steel? Zhan Hongying said. Sure, as long as you can beat me. Zhan Hongying's face lit up when she heard the first 2 words, but the latter part completely shattered her delusion. Defeat Chu Kuangren? What a joke. As long as she wasn't stupid, she knew that she was no match for the other party. If the other party's palm came over, she would probably lose half her life. Fellow Taoist Chu, this stone tablet isn't just important to me. It's important to all living beings in the world, because it's related to the devil realm. Oh, tell me about it. In ancient times, the underworld demonic realm had once invaded the firmament star. Later on, an emperor appeared out of nowhere and chased all the demonic creatures back to the demonic realm. He then refined 99 Acheron tablets with an unparalleled technique and sealed the passageway between the demonic realm and the firmament star. Chu Kuangren's expression did not change as he listened to Zhan Hongying. It was hard to tell if he believed her or not. You're saying that this stone tablet is the Acheron tablet? That's right. The 99 Acheron tablets form the Great Acheron Formation that seals the demonic realm's passageway. This is the most important stone tablet, the Acheron Formation's Eye. It's also an item that the Ashura tribe has guarded for generations. However, many years ago, the Great Acheron Formation experienced a violent disturbance, and someone took the opportunity to take this stone tablet away. It wasn't until recently that the Acheron Manor appeared. Through the Acheron Formation's Eye, we were able to locate the stone tablet. Now, can you please return it to me, Brother Chu? Zhan Hongying asked. Chu Kuangren pondered for a moment before he said, "It's not that I can't return this stone tablet to you, but you can come back to me when I'm done studying it." He did not completely believe her words. This Acheron tablet contained an extremely strong Emperor's aura, and the runes on it were unique as if they contained the Tao of talismans and various Emperor's insights. This was an extremely valuable treasure. It was impossible for him to give up on such a treasure with just a few words from Zhan Hongying. He would have to be out of his mind to do something so stupid. In recent years, the demonic realm has been restless and ready to break the seal at any time. If we don't retrieve the Acheron tablet soon, the demonic realm's army will descend upon us again in 10 years at most. 10 years? It won't take that long. Chu Kuangren said. 10 years to comprehend a single stone tablet. He felt that 10 days was too long. Zhan Hongying did not know what to say since she could not convince Chu Kuangren otherwise. If you have nothing else to say, then we'll meet again. Chu Kuangren kept the stone tablet into his yin and yang ring. Then, his figure disappeared from the spot. Woo woo, the black mist behind Zhan Hongying let out 2 cries. Idiot, how would I know what to do? The Acheron tablet has fallen into that guy's hands. Unless he doesn't want it anymore, who can take it back from him? Zhan Hongying said in frustration. Ah, I'm so angry. Zhan Hongying scratched her head. I should find someone to fight and vent my anger. I wonder if Xiao Jingchen is still alive in the Heavenly Golden Palace. If I can't find him, I'll have to look for Wang Tianteng. Black Heaven Sect. When Chu Kuangren returned to the Black Heaven Sect, he planned to comprehend the strange stone tablet. However, Elder Ruyan and the white-robed general suddenly came to find him. What happened? Chu Kuangren frowned when he saw the 2's serious expressions. Sect leader, I think something happened to Shang Qingxue. Something happened? Yes, we've been trying to contact her for the past few days, but there hasn't been any response, Elder Ruyan said. I want to go out and look for her. The white-robed general said. Let me take a look. Chu Kuangren then spread his spiritual thoughts with the Black Heaven Sect as the center, covering the entire firmament star. Apart from a few hidden places, images of other places flashed across his mind like a slideshow. However, he could not find any trace of Shang Qingxue. There were 2 explanations for that. First, Shang Qingxue was no longer on Firmament Star. Of course, the possibility of that was very low. Chu Kuangren was more inclined to the second explanation, which was that Shang Qingxue had either entered a spatial secret realm or was hidden by someone else. Where was the last time you contacted Shang Qingxue? Chu Kuangren asked. It was in the Nebula Prefecture. That's the territory of Parchprime Palace. Elder Ruyan said. Oh, Parchprime Palace. That name sounds familiar. Chu Kuangren suddenly took out a letter and said, Isn't Lu Yiqing from Parchprime Palace the one who infiltrated the Black Heaven Sect? I wanted to ask for a ransom from them, but I didn't expect to be delayed by so many things. Looks like it's time for me to pay them a visit. Chu Kuangren murmured.